Hello and welcome to the Switchrpg podcast. I am one of your hosts, Gio, and I'm joined by Jonny. Jonny, how's it going?
It's going good.
It's going good. I like the enthusiasm, I think. I like it. All right, if this is your first time listening, this is the show from Switchrpg.com where we bring you the latest in the world of RPGs on the Nintendo Switch. This week we are talking about a lot of news. It's been a while since we've talked. But I mean, news is kind of slow at this point. There's a lot going on right now, other than video games. And we have a pretty decent main topic where we're going to talk about remakes that we want. We'll get into specifics later on in the episode. But first, Jonny, actually, before you get into what you're playing, please don't forget to visit discord.switchrpg.com, as well as our Twitter, twitter.com/switchrpg, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/switchrpg, and switchrpg.com. Jonny, what are you playing?
I've been playing a bunch of games.
Bunch of them.
We had a gap, so I got a bunch of games in because of the gap. So filling in the gap, I played Into the Breach, and I've beaten the game numerous times. It's the kind of game that even after you beat it, there's more stuff, more unlockables, and more things to do because it's a very bite-sized roguelike puzzle tactics strategy mech game thing. It's so good.
Yeah. You seem to really enjoy that game.
That game is excellent. Whatever year it came out, that was indie game of the year, or at the very least, strategy puzzle game of the year.
Yeah. Yep. There was some I think there was some issues with that though. But yeah.
I don't think there's any issues. That game is such a bite-sized gem right there. So good. I played so I got Okami HD on the Switch.
Mhm.
This was the game that I missed on PS2 when it first released. So I missed it, never got around to playing it, started playing it on the Switch. I'm probably about 3 hours into the game, maybe 4 hours into the game, maybe less than that. It has a very slow opening, kind of like Twilight Princess. So it's a little slow to get into. I just started to the world is slowly starting to open up, so I'm exploring more. So I'll have more to report on that. It runs well.
Okay.
I will say that it does run well enough. It's not like 60 frames a second type stuff. It would have been way better if it did.
But sorry, going back into motion controls, is that really well incorporated?
There isn't. It doesn't seem like it's required at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm playing the game without it, and the paintbrush stuff you can just use the stick for. So
okay,
the regular joystick. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of motion controls to begin with, so that's good that you can play it and just be fine.
Yeah. I'm with you, and it depends on the motion controls, but I mean there hasn't been a need for the motion controls to sort of for me to like it or dislike it because I haven't really encountered it.
Mhm.
So if it's there, I haven't noticed it at all.
Right.
I think there's subtle turnsy type stuff with the camera maybe with tilt controls, but I haven't noticed it at all. I'm using my right stick to move all the camera stuff, so that works. What else have I been playing? I played this little game that's not out yet. It's the demo for it is on Steam. It's called the prologue demo. So the game is called The Last Spell. This game is going to be awesome. As long as they continue to improve what's already there, it's going to be such a fun, weird survival roguelike tower defense thing. It's kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre meets Darkest Dungeon. You kind of take the two, combine it together, and that's kind of the game in a nutshell. You're just defending your this. Yeah, you have like a bunch of mages. They're in the center of the area.
Right.
I guess closing or opening a portal, one of those two things, and you're defending them and against incoming hordes of like evil stuff. I think they're mostly zombies, but they might get more evil, gruesome, whatever. Might be
Okay.
like demons and stuff like that involved. And it there's like three different stages to it. You can sort of build up your fort area, so you can add like catapults and reinforce the walls. Then there's another phase where you can build structures to give you more stuff. You can repair, harvest existing structures to sort of get some gold back. You can purchase gear for your characters in order to like give them different weapons, more items, consumables, potions to use. While the final phase, which is the combat stuff, and the zombies sort of start coming in as waves, but it's a turn-based tactical sort of setup thing. Really awesome
Hmm.
play I had with it. It's definitely not done yet, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's something to keep an eye on. It's called The Last Spell.
The Last Spell, and actually, we may or may not have discussed it, but it is coming out to the Switch at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah,
That will be a day one purchase on Switch.
I'm
If
looking at an older article, August 7th. The Last Spell casts onto Switch in 2020. Not much time left for that. I don't know if things have changed.
yeah,
Uh,
it's not coming out this year. No
all
way.
right, the Last Spell is a turn-based tactical RPG with roguelite elements from CCCP. Will release on PC and Mac via Steam in 2020. A Nintendo Switch version is planned for a later date. So maybe that's gotten delayed. But yeah, I'm looking at this game. I like the look of it. It's all pixel art, all done really well.
Oh yeah.
I like the fact that, yeah, there are zombies, but it actually looks like there may be some other monsters or whatever. Um but or whatever enemies, I'm not sure. But yeah, it looks like there are different enemy types. But yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah. I've been playing more on Persona 5. I'm close to 20 hours in. I'm on that second palace.
And loving it more and more.
No, no, I'm not. It's not a bad game. It's just an overrated game. My expectations were set really high, and it let me down.
Well,
So
that's really not anyone's fault but your own, really, isn't it?
no, not really. It's the fault of those who hyped it because I'm playing the game and I'm like, there's no way this game is in the nines
Oh,
area for
oh,
score or upper eights. I would put this game in the lower eights, upper sevens.
wow.
For
Okay.
Persona 5. Yeah, it's there's the combat system's not anything it's not special. The story so far is not special. Uh the characters are not special.
Oh boy. Even the
Uh,
Joker?
the Joker is kind of like an empty voiceless husk. There
Oh.
isn't much to Joker. He's kind of like Chrono, right? There isn't much there. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like
Well,
the
you
main
get
protagonist for any RPG.
right. I was gonna say you get that a lot with a lot of protagonists.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of JRPGs. Yeah, he's like very, very stereotypical, quiet kind of thing. Has no opinion on things, more or less. So yeah, it's just a run of the. It feels like a run of the mill. The special thing though is that weird. How to describe it? That calendar system where you essentially have two main activities you can do. You have
Gotcha.
your day activity and your night activity every single day of the week, and you have to sort of balance your schedule according to the demands of like doing part-time work, hanging out with your friend, studying for school, a whole bunch of other stuff, spending time at the sauna, the hot tub place,
Hutub.
the hot tub. Yeah.
This
So
just
there's
brings back memories of school, and I don't know if I want to go there.
So yeah, that's the cool part about the game. But and the UI, the sort of style of the game, how the game definitely oozes some very nice aesthetic style
Yeah.
elements. So those things are cool. And also walking around Shibuya is always an interesting and fun thing.
Hmm.
So it's not like the game isn't without saving graces. It definitely has saving graces, but it's not, it's not super special. Okay, moving on. Uh, Divinity Original Sin 2, the game that,
Whoa.
yeah,
Hey, time out. Time out. We're not supposed to talk about that game. We were
I
done
know, I
talking
know.
about Divinity Original
I
Sin
never,
2.
I never beat the game. I keep like firing up multiplayer games with either my girlfriend or with my brother and other friends, and I never get around. We never like finish it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do my own solo kind of
Yep.
thing and recruit my own party members. So that's what I'm doing. I'm playing solo. I'm not. I'm also not rolling any of the custom characters. So I'm playing with the defaults, the built-ins.
The origin
So like,
characters, yeah.
yeah, like Fane and
That's good
Ifan.
because they actually have a lot of really cool like backstory, so
They do. Yeah, I like the four. I think I'm only gonna stick with four of them. I don't
okay.
know if you're gonna get access to the other ones after you get off Fort Joy, but the island, that
Yep.
that island. So I don't know if they tag along with you or not. So when I get to that point, I'll figure it out. But yeah, the game's great. Game's great.
Yeah.
It is a little slow in the opening though.
It is a little slow.
And it's weird. Story wise, it doesn't really indicate to you, like it doesn't give you like good direction. That's
Okay.
no, like it's
It's
the
open.
initial sort of direction as to what you need to do, where you need to go, other than like, hey, I'm on this island and I definitely want to get off. But it sort of tying that to a bigger picture narrative type thing isn't really there. But I'm certain I'll figure it out as I continue to play more.
Mhm. Well, just in the outright, you survived because you were chosen to be a god. So
Well, I haven't
that
gotten that point yet.
yeah, you have. As soon as you get wrecked
I
on the thing,
They don't mention nothing about being chosen by the god.
sure they do.
They show that little like
You
not CG, that art
you might have skipped the
video.
scene, but it's like it's right in the beginning.
Well, you fall into the water and some tentacle thing I think pulls you
Yep.
out or something like that, and
No.
then that's it.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
You
there's
missed.
also the witch lady at the actual sorcerer that's messing stuff up.
Malady. Is it Malady?
I don't know her name,
Okay.
but she sort of messes things up. I guess she sources other people, including yourself. You all end up on the boat. She
Right.
then appears again and messes everything up. And then those evil, what are they called? Like those tentacle monsters. What are they called?
The tentacle monsters?
The thing that no one, the reason why the source users are being sent to the island is to prevent them from being able to use the source that summons the evil things, the evil tentacle
Oh,
poo-poos.
yes.
I forgot what they're called.
Shoot. Yeah, I don't recall either.
The vile ones or whatever. I'm not
Oh,
sure what
yeah.
they're.
Yeah,
The
I
tentacle
yeah, I know
monsters.
what you're talking about, but I don't remember what they're called now. Great.
Yeah. See, even you don't know. And
I
you played and beat the game how many times?
a few times, but I just don't remember.
Yeah.
Been
So yeah. So I paid attention. I'm paying attention.
okay.
So that's it. Anyway, the game is great. Definitely enjoying it. We'll be playing more, but all of those games have been taking a backseat because I got hard into Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, because I found that game on the Wii U eShop
Oh,
and I bought it. It's only $10. That is the best $10 I've ever spent in my
so,
entire life.
so you rushed
So
out obviously to get it because their eShop is just closing. Is that what's happening?
I just got it because before it landed on the Wii U eShop, that game was available nowhere. It was
Oh.
on the Wii eShop, but that's been closed, and I didn't even know that it was available on the Wii, the original Wii, and it's on the Wii U, and that's it. Like you play the game on the N64 or you play it on the Wii U, Those are the only two places that you can get it right now. You definitely can't get it on the Wii eShop anymore. So I
Oh,
scooped that bad boy right up, started playing it. I'm on scene, I think I'm on scene 7 or 8 right now, and things are. I have officially done the thing that does the stuff that is a moral choice had to be made, and I made it. I don't want to say anything because spoilers, and uh, the translation of that game isn't super well done, but the story, as it's picking along, I'm like, yeah, all right, I remember. Yeah, the story is really good.
I'm
Yeah,
watching the gameplay as you're blabbing about this. No, this is not for me.
it is so good.
Is it?
Oh yeah, it's real good. It's real good. It's man, it actually looks really good too on the Wii U. I don't know what it is. The upscaling that it does. It there's no. It might be like a little blurry
Yeah.
from
That
like just the resolution
okay.
of it being
That's
stretched upwards, but it doesn't have that like Vaseline N64 filter texture filtering thing. That's gone. So the game actually looks good.
that's
It's
kind of what
actually a
I'm
good.
noticing. It's just kind of it might I'm right. I'm not sure if it's the resolution or what it is. It just looks blurry. But there are some instances where like the text is fine. It's more
Hmm.
the game itself.
No, it visually it looks really good.
Yeah.
The audio is always great. It's not it's the N64, so you're not going to get like super awesome quality music, but the music is very memorable, very very good stuff. And the moments in there, the story moments that happen, just really good stuff. The game takes itself seriously. There's no like trope stuff happening whatsoever, even though it is a JRPG. The game is very serious. There is no comic relief
Hmm.
of the characters, which is why I love the Ogre Battle franchise so much because it's serious. It's got its serious face on, and it's like
Right.
we're gonna tell a real story.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm into the way they made the battle system. It just looks odd to me.
It
It feels
they
okay.
auto, yeah, no, it's you're not doing anything. You send your units out,
Yeah.
and they do the battles. So the gameplay is more so pre pre battle map configuration. You're sort of like you're doing min maxing. It's a lot of min
Okay.
maxing stuff beforehand. You're sort of setting up your units, kind of like in mech games where you're sort of specking out your mech in like Xenoblade
Mm-hmm.
X. You're sort of equipping your parties and your squads, each of your units. You're equipping them with different characters, changing their classes, making sure that if it depends on how you want to build them out, right? There's so many different ways to build them out. Maybe you want them to have a healer. Maybe you don't want them to have healer. Maybe you want them to have like a witch that can do disabling of the enemy units. Maybe you want to just have a party full of mages. You want to have like tanks in the front row, or maybe you want to put archers in the back and just put like this big giant beast creature, this large creature on the front, like maybe a golem in the front, so it can take up all the damage because golems are really good tanks, and then just put a bunch of like area damage dealers or
Okay.
archers, right? There's like a lot of different ways to build parties. There's a lot of classes in the game too. There's like over 50 different classes
Oh
if
wow.
you also factor in the different creature large classes. There's easily over 50 of them, and each unit can be up to 5 characters. So
Right.
you're talking crazy amounts of permutations that you can build for each unit. You can make squads of like all sorts of different stuff. You can have like all samurai if you want, or all ninjas if you want. If you put in some of these classes, like if you put a ninja in the front row, they're going to do like a fist weapon type of attacks. If you put them in the back row, they're actually going to do like ninjutsu magic base attacks.
Oh wow,
So they
that's pretty
can kind
cool.
of, yeah, they can kind of change up. And then when you're on the battle map, depending on how units engage with one another, their directional facing comes into play. So you'll it's hard to explain, but you'll notice it as you play. You can get engaged from behind, and if you do, then your units that you put on the back row will actually appear on the front row,
Oh
and
no.
your units that were on the front row become on the back row. So now your tanks are all the way in the back, and all your spellcasters are on the front, and now they're going to get whittled away by the enemy. So how you engage the enemy makes a big difference too, a very big difference. So
Hmm.
so
Okay.
it's most of the gameplay is that setup stuff, and then as you're sort of doing stuff, kind of like an RTS, but it happens way slower, so you don't have to like stress out too much. And at any point, you can hit like the pause button to sort of stop everyone's motion, and then queue up new commands like, okay, I don't want you to go here, I want you to go there, capture that settlement, city, whatever, or I want you to sort of go to this location over there. And so you could change things up, and you can queue up commands, and you unpause it and let things play out. And then when the combat actually happens, it's more hands off. You sort of make the overall call of, all right, do I need to tell my units to retreat from the battle because they're about to die, or not? And then there's another thing that you can do always, which is you could change their AI behavior of targeting. So you can tell them like, all right, focus fire on the leader, or focus fire on the strongest units, or take out the weakest units first. Right. So you can sort of direct them, but you're not. It's a very loose direction.
Hmm.
It's very hands off type of thing.
Okay.
So that's generally what you're doing. So it's all about like, manipulating things. You're taking a bigger back seat, sort of directing. It's more about orchestrating uh, this ongoing warfare than it is anything else. Really
Okay.
good game.
Yeah, and again, as you're explaining it, I am watching some gameplay, and I like that mechanic of kind of not auto battles, but I mean it's just you set it up like you had mentioned, where you can
Yeah.
select the leader, the strongest enemy, or the strongest target, or the weakest target. Um, okay, all right, cool.
So that's what I've been playing. What have you been playing?
Well, like you mentioned, it's been a big gap, so I have a list of few games.
Oh yeah, I see it. It's so huge.
Huge list. Oh my goodness. All right, so I've been playing Ninth Dawn, and I've been playing along for the YouTube channel. I'm just at a point where it's kind of just a level block where I can't advance until I get my character stronger because the enemies are just so hard. I kind of don't like that in games. I know a lot of games do that. They kind of just gate you somewhere. It's kind of where I'm at. I don't know if I'm going to put a lot more time into it though. I just know that there's a lot because the game is just so big. There's so much to do, and it'll just take a long time for me to complete this game. I just don't have the attention span right now to do that. So I'm gonna maybe record a few more episodes of that, and I think I'm gonna be done with it. It's just I like what it does. I like the open world, the open dungeons. The dungeons are pretty big. I like the fact that you can blacksmith, you can armor smith, you can weaponsmith, you can do a bunch of those things. What I and I love all the stuff you can tame monsters, you can capture monsters. I love that. It's just too overwhelming for me right now. Um, so I think I might be done with that one soon. I don't know if I can play it to completion. We'll see how it goes. But another game I've gone back to, I have completed already, and I'm going back to is Dark Souls Remastered. And again, I'm recording it for the YouTube channel, but I'm also playing it for another reason. My brother-in-law has had the game since it's come out. He has yet to complete it. He says the game is impossible for anyone to ever do it, which is not total nonsense, right? Like all the people have beaten it. It's just he needs to get good, and he just can't do it. And
Yep.
he
Yep.
refuses to believe that I have beat this game. So it's kind of just the middle finger to him, saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna make sure everybody knows I did it this time."
And that's like the easiest one in the like the Souls likes.
It really is. And I told him that. I said, just sword and board the whole thing and you beat the game.
Yeah.
You can kind of just walk through most of the game. I mean, the bosses are challenging, right? You can't sword and board them, but a lot of the other enemies,
Yeah, you can.
no, not really. Not like you can with the regular hollows or anything like that. Yeah, and even the Black Knights, which are really hard, they're just more sponges than anything.
You can sword and board most of the hardest hitting attacks. I mean, a lot of them you can still block them. You might need to change your shield up, especially if it's like an elemental type attack.
Yeah, yeah.
But other than that, I went to there's this armor set. I think it was the black iron armor set,
Oh,
along with the or the black knight armor,
Black
something like
Knight.
that.
Yep.
Or it was either black knight or black iron. That armor set has so much poise, and I used it was some sort of great shield, and just a combination of those two things, like nothing. I was just able to block everything, every
Right.
single hit. Like nothing caused my character's poise to break. Uh, maybe like multiple subsequent hints, but I was able to just block everything and then just attack back. It was made it easy mode.
That's it. And you don't even really have to parry in this game because if you can just really kind of get behind the enemy and do like the backstab animation, it
Yeah,
does just as much damage. You don't have to get that timing down. So, and that's what I told him. I said Dark Souls 1 is, it can be difficult for people, but it's really not the most difficult of the three Dark Souls games. But,
yeah, yeah.
any,
It's just a different way of playing. Once you figure out the different way of playing, learn that skill set of
mhm.
playing the way that you need to play that game, then that's it. The rest of the game becomes easy.
And I think you've mentioned it the way you said it, was perfect because it's really never about the game really messing up or really doing. It's more always on you, on the player, doing something wrong. And a prime example was I was attacking an enemy and I was way too close to the edge and my animation just took me right over the edge
Yep.
and I died. Again, that's not the game's like I just it was my mistake, like something I did wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the Dark Souls animations and the gameplay is just so refined, and it's just I thought it got better as the games went on, like Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and then even
Absolutely.
onto Bloodborne. They just got
Well,
better and better as to what they were doing.
it changed up. Sekiro and Bloodborne are definitely major change ups in the
Hmm.
combat system. I think Dark Souls 2 is pretty much where it really matured, and then it branched off on Bloodborne, and then Dark Souls 3 perfected the Dark Souls style of combat, and then Sekiro opened up yet another avenue. I don't like Sekiro's combat system as much as Dark Souls or Bloodborne, but it's still fantastic. It's
Hmm.
just if you want to parry, oh man, that's the game to learn how to parry.
Yeah,
Just nothing but parries.
yeah. I've never played Bloodborne or Sekiro, and I really want to. I can imagine. Now they don't have a shield in Sekiro, do they?
Uh, no. Your
Okay,
shield is essentially your sword.
okay. Yikes.
You're deflecting. I think they call it deflect.
All right.
It's
Well,
not
yeah.
really a parry, but you have to like deflect hits multiple times in sequence. It's almost like a rhythm game of a kinda. And
Yeah.
every single character has a poise meter, and the more you deflect their hits, the more you sort of bring down their poise until you break their poise, and then you can actually go in and then you take off like an entire chunk of their health. The game's not about whittling away their HP bar. The game's about creating uh, deflecting their attacks to get them exposed to take down a major chunk, because the game is kind of done in like one hit kills.
Okay.
There's I forgot what it's called. I don't know. It's like this little dot thing that appears next to the health bar. So you have a health bar, and then each dot represents another full health bar.
Oh.
And you could just go up to enemies that don't have any dots, so they just have one health bar, and you can stealth in one hit kill all the enemies that don't have additional health bars. If they have additional health bars, your opening attack can eliminate one health bar. Because if you're stealthing in, they don't see you. Boom, that's a
Right.
one hit kill on one health bar. And then if you deflect them enough times, you'll be able to whittle away. You can eliminate the next health bar, or you could, instead of breaking their poise and making them exposed, you could attack them and actually deal damage to them. But at that point, now you are whittling away their health bar.
Yeah.
It's very nuanced. It's a very different combat system. It's really good. It's just me personally, I think the Bloodborne combat system is phenomenal, and I mean, it needed the it needs 60 frames per second. That's the only thing that's holding back the Bloodborne combat system.
Right. So yeah, I need to just show them up. That's basically
Ye-
what I'm doing there. And I gotta be honest, like we're in a slow time for Nintendo Switch RPGs. It's gonna be a while. I mean, we have Age of Calamity coming out,
Yeah, this
and,
week.
that, yeah, this week, so that will be fun and exciting. But after that, we are waiting. We are waiting a while. I think the next one we have, bigger one anyway, is probably Bravely Default 2.
No, Immortals, Phoenix Rising.
Oh yes. Oh, I completely forgot about that. I'm just 'cause
Yeah,
I'm trying to
that
avoid anything.
that's like 2 weeks after Age of Calamity,
All right,
and
all right,
that's a big one.
all
And
right.
there's also that crime game, Sins
Oh,
of the Empire or something
crime.
like that.
Yeah, Empire. Yeah,
Empire of Sin.
Yep, that's it. All
Yep.
right. Well, I stand corrected then. Okay, maybe we do have a few things to look forward to. Well, thank you for that. All right, moving on to some new game announcements. We have fast-paced robot destroying roguelite Star Renegades launches on Switch. It says later this month. I want to say it's like in 3 days, right? What do we have here? Massive damage intergalactic roguelite Star Renegades has been throwing players into procedurally generated and vibrant landscapes on PC for a few months now. Fortunately, the rest of us don't have to wait much longer. Get in the action, as publisher Raw Fury have announced that the game will be launching on consoles this month. Let me see if I have the date here.
So it says the 25th.
Mm,
It also says the 19th. So I'm not
yeah,
sure
I have
which one is
in
correct.
this article. If you own the Nintendo Switch or an Xbox One, you'll be able to download the game on November 19th, which is just 3 days away. But on PS4, that's coming out on the 25th.
Okay.
Yeah, and this game just I I'm loving the way this game looks.
Yeah,
Um,
the art style looks really good.
yeah, I like the cutscene animation, the kind of like the anime esque look. Then it's just the pixel art is just really colorful. The animation, and the attacks look really cool, kind of over the top type of stuff. There's a lot of pink, a lot of pink.
Yeah, a lot of pink and neon colors. That's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Big fan.
And I think the attacks are based off of cards, so it's almost like a card turn-based RPG. And then you have this attack time meter. Sorry, meter. What the heck is a meter? A meter. And I think you said that you can manipulate that meter as well.
I
Uh,
think it sort of you can delay or push back
Okay.
enemies, sort of interrupting their effective turn to have to occur later on
All right.
in
Cool.
time. Uh, don't hold me to that. I could be way off. That's how I interpreted my readings of what was going on.
Okay. Well, if they do that, Child of Light is another game that did something similar to that. It had that meter of when the turn was going to happen for all people on the screen, and then if you yourself or even them, if they attack you at a certain time, it'll delay your attack. So there was always that back and forth, which is kind of cool. If you go to Raw Fury's YouTube page, they have a Star Renegades Corruption anime trailer. It's about 2 minutes 15 seconds long. Kind of gives you an idea as to what the game is about, and it is pretty cool. Really well done.
Yeah. The user reviews on Steam is at the more recent one. It looks like it's climbing upwards because it was on the all time 85%. and now the short term user reviews is 89%, and the Metacritic score is at 76%. I think this is a game that's actually getting better. I think some of these reviews and some of the early PC reviews were based on a lesser polished version of the game, and I think with all these new updates, especially the console releases, I think it might be the case where they're going to release a way more polished quality product than what the PC version originally released as.
Okay, that's really promising.
I'm looking at it in an optimistic light. I could be way off, and it could just be a mediocre game.
Wow. Well, this is Optimist Johnny. I love it. I love it. All right, so another new game announcement is a game that I'm going to admit I overlooked. I saw something in the headline and I was just like, whatever. I have no zero interest in this. So here's the new game, and I totally just spoiler alert. I totally changed my mind. Ruined King, a League of Legends story coming to the Nintendo Switch in 2021. So obviously, League of Legends not my thing whatsoever. Once I saw that, I just totally ignored the rest of it, ignoring very important parts of it. Mostly being that the development studio Airship Syndicate is involved in this. Airship Syndicate, if you're not familiar, they did Darksiders Genesis as well as Battle Chasers Night War. So, development studio Airship Syndicate and publisher Riot Forge have recently announced that a League of Legends spin off title is heading to the Nintendo Switch platform in 2021. The game is titled Ruined King, a League of Legends story, and is set to be a turn-based role-playing game. The two companies have released a beautiful cinematic trailer for the game, which you can view down below. This is on My Nintendo News here. So that's basically all we have, right? We just have this kind of really well done announcement trailer, and it's just a cinematic, right? We don't have any. I haven't seen any. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't really looked, but I haven't seen any screenshots of what the game will look like, anything like that. But you've played League of Legends, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Okay. And any
I played
thoughts on this?
I played League of Legends a lot, and it's a good quality game that they keep on improving. And then they've been spinning off a whole lot of additional League of Legends world games that take place within the same lore with the same characters, but very different gameplay elements. I played their card game. What was it,
Huh.
Runeterra? I think that's what it's called, Legends of Runeterra or something like that. I played that. It's actually really good for a card system. It's a little bit more nuanced than Hearthstone, but still relatively simple of a card game to get into, like
Okay.
Hearthstone. Very well polished, good production quality and stuff like that. I stopped playing it, but that was pretty good. So, and then they also have their shooter game, their Overwatch style game. I forgot what that one's called, but they got that one in development. I don't think it released officially yet. And they've got others, and all of them have been like good quality games. So the fact that they're going with a seemingly single player RPG centric
Mm-hmm.
style game based on everything else that they've been doing before, it's going to be a good quality polished product.
Right.
So
I agree. The only thing um the only thing I have negative to say about this is I want Airship Syndicate to stop doing a license not like they're not licensed games, but like I want them to do their own IP. Like obviously this is League of Legends. They just did Darksiders Genesis and Battle Chasers Night War. While it was a product of theirs, kind of, Joe Madera, who is in Airship Syndicate, it was his graphic novel. So it was kind of a rehashed idea, and they made it into a turn-based RPG. But again, I want to see something brandy new, from the top of their heads into a game. I have no doubts that this won't. I feel like this game will visually look really stunning, and I'm sure it'll be really good. But I just want to see what they can do. You know?
yeah,
It also says in this article on My Nintendo News that they will be unveiling more in December, including gameplay footage. So we do have to look forward to that. Okay, cool. Upcoming RPGs. Do we have any other than the ones we've mentioned? What have we mentioned so far?
Well, we mentioned Star Renegades comes out in a few days.
Yep, yep.
There's Age of Calamity. There's Empire of Sin, but that's not next week, but the week after.
Yeah, it's December.
But that's coming up pretty soon because there might not be. We might not record next week, right? Just because of the holiday
Yeah,
kicking in.
right. Yeah.
We did. There's Micetopia, which looks like a Metroidvania, but you play as a mouse.
Yeah.
Maybe that's good. Maybe.
Maybe that's November 20th, and I think it's $5. Yeah, $5. Yeah, you play as a mouse. It is it pixel art or is it voxel? What are we looking at here?
Yeah, it's pixel art.
Okay. So yeah, Micetopia. Hmm.
And other than those, the only other one that looks interesting is the Morbid one. Morbid, the Seven Acolytes. But that's on December 3rd, so we might be able to comment on that later.
Ah, yes, Morbid Seven Acolytes. I do recall that one too. Another pretty decent, I think. I think it's going to be decent. Pixel art game. Very gross.
Yeah, yeah, very gross.
Mm,
That is, I mean, it has like this big giant sperm whale
mm-hmm.
just exploded from the inside with its entrails all over the place.
Yeah, that one might be. We'll see about it. We'll see about it because I'm actually for this coming week. I'm excited for obviously Age of Calamity, but Star Renegades is one I've been waiting for a while, and these PC players have been playing it before me, and I don't like them for that.
Well, you could be playing it on PC too. It's a
Um,
2D game. It's not like your PC won't be able to run it.
excuse me, I don't play PC games. Okay,
I'm just saying.
all right, let's get into some newses. If you haven't been paying attention, BioWare has released some information. Mass Effect Legendary Edition has been announced. Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Let's see. Let's read the excerpt here. This is on RP Gamer. EA and BioWare have announced Mass Effect Legendary Edition, a collection that will bring Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, and launch to the PC, PlayStation 4. Wait, there's no Switch here.
Yeah, it's not there. They must it must be a mistake. It must be.
Oh man, yeah, that totally. I mean, there were so many rumors about this coming to the Switch. Like everybody, like even us, we were bamboozled,
It's
right?
still coming. It's still coming.
It's still you are in denial, and I'm not talking about the river either.
It would be stupid for EA to not do this.
I
They have nothing to lose. Everything is selling like hotcakes on the Switch. It's not like the game is going to run bad. The game ran on last gen systems.
Yep.
So, and actually, that at this point we can officially say last gen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, like you had said, it ran on the previous generation of consoles. I mean, they do have something to lose, right? I mean, it will take time to develop for the Switch. For some reason, whatever reason, it's different. So, they it's just time. But I think if it were to come out on the Switch and it ran well, obviously that's the caveat, right? It's got to run well. It would sell more on the Switch than it would on any of the other consoles.
Uh,
I'm putting it out there. I said it.
yeah, it could. It could.
It will.
I don't know the new next gen consoles that have just released. If they get that backwards compatibility upgrade thing,
Yep.
it'd be kind of nice to see Mass Effect at like 4K 60.
Yeah, well that's the developers have to develop for that. They have to put in the time for that. And maybe that's why they're not doing the Switch. They're doing the 4K enhanced versions.
Probably not.
I don't want to hear it.
I don't think this is EA. I don't think they're going the extra mile.
For Nintendo.
Yeah, they're big fans of MVP.
Yep. MVP?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Minimal viable product.
Ah, okay. I thought it was most valuable player.
Nah,
My bad.
not EA. They wouldn't do that.
All right. Minecraft Dungeons getting cross-platform next week. Cross-platform is heading to Minecraft Dungeons next week. Mojang Studios has announced functionality should be going live November 17th, which is tomorrow, or today when you get this recording. So November 17th is when these features go live. The Switch players will be connect online to with users on other platforms, specifically the PS4 and Xbox One. Not sure why it doesn't have a PC version there. Maybe that's all inclusive in the Xbox One version. Not sure. Minecraft Dungeons originally made it back to the Switch in May. More support is planned for the game's future. And that's what I love about this. They just really continuously support this product, and it's a really good game. They've added already a tremendous amount of content with either DLC or even free updates.
Yeah, well,
uh
you complained about the content that was there from the start, but
yeah,
the fact
yeah,
that they have continued to support it and really filled it out, that takes what was the major complaint upon release to now being null and void because it does have the content.
yeah, it was definitely bare bones, and the DLC didn't, it wasn't a make or break price. It was $10 for the DLC. The game itself wasn't a full price game, but I could see its value now, that's for sure. And they've already planned on other DLC coming down the line. So, I mean, you get whatever content you want. I mean, maybe they're nickel and diming us, but you're getting the content you want. If you want more content, it's gonna be there as you want it. So, I think this is cool. I think the only problem is it can get convoluted in the way you add friends because you need a Xbox Live, or yeah, an Xbox Live account at least to play on the Switch together with even me and my son. I have my Xbox Live account, but I need to create one for him so we could play together. There is no local play on that. It was online only. So that was kind of stinky.
All right. Do you mind if I grab the next five?
Yeah,
I
sure. Go
just
ahead.
want to blast through them real quick.
Okay.
So let's see. Legend of Heroes 1 and 2, which we all know that 3 is out and available on Switch. But whatever happened to 1 and 2? Well, they just announced that 1 and 2 is indeed coming to the Switch. And then obviously 4 is eventually going to be making its way to the Switch. So Legend of Heroes Trials of Cold Steel uh,
Trails.
is,
You do it every time.
is Trials. Oh, my goodness. It's coming to the Switch, and you'll be able to get the first and second storylines, which is very important for that series. So that's coming.
Hopefully
Uh,
coming to the West.
we got some Capcom news. I don't know if I should save this for rumor land, but I mean these are not rumors. So Capcom is expecting at least 1 million in sales for Monster Hunter Rise. My response to that is duh, and why isn't it like 5 million minimum? Because that game is going to sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, they're
So
definitely underselling themselves for sure.
yeah, and a big time. And another thing is Famitsu, and this is related to the Capcom thing. The new most anticipated game on Switch is not Breath of the Wild 2. It is Monster Hunter Rise.
That's
That game
insane.
got announced like a month and a half ago or
Hmm.
2 months ago, and it's already more anticipated than Breath of the Wild 2.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy, but that's Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is great. Immortals Phoenix Rising, the game is not going to be all that big in size. If you want to download it, it's going to be 13.2 gigabytes, roughly speaking. So that's not so bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Just for comparison, Witcher 3 was about 32 gigs.
Yeah, so you can get double your Immortals Phoenix Rising for one Witcher. Uh, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is also another one of those games that is continuing to get more support. They added another playable character, which is Bloodless. I believe it's the boss, the lady that is bathing in blood. I guess you can play as her. She has like this Princess Peach style hover with the umbrella
That's
type
gross.
mechanic going on. So that'll be interesting. So another playable character for a game that's already pretty fantastic and getting lots of support, and then more DLC with the Borderlands 2. It's the Commander Lilith and the Fight for the Sanctuary DLC. It's now available on the Switch, so if you want even more excellent multiplayer Borderlands 2 stuff, there you go. I don't know if that DLC is multiplayer
Should be.
specific, but should be, yeah.
Not specific, but you should be able to play multiplayer on it.
Yeah. All right, that's it
Um,
for
did,
that.
did you want to do Bethesda content?
Well, I was waiting for you to cover that because I know you want to.
Oh yeah, sure. So Xbox CFO plans or says no plans to pull all future Bethesda content from Nintendo platforms. So here are the words coming out of his mouth. So Xbox Chief Financial Officer Tim Stewart said the following during Jeffrey's Interactive Entertainment conference last week. The goal here is we're I'll say it from a cross platform perspective. Microsoft is a platform. We are one. I'm sorry, I'm having troubles here. We're one of the first to really support Minecraft, Roadblock, Fortnite across all platforms. So we highly encourage cross-platform play simply from this landscape of if it's good for the gaming ecosystem, it's good for us. Classic rising tide lifts all boats. What we'll do in the long run is we don't have intentions of just pulling all of the Bethesda content out of Sony or Nintendo or otherwise, but what we want is well, I am like having trouble reading this
But what
today.
we want is we want that content in the long run to either be to either first be better or best or pick your differentiated experience on our platforms. This guy speaks weird.
Thank you. It's not just me, right?
We will want Bethesda content to show up the best as on our platforms. What? Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
guy speaks weird.
I'm like trying.
Go ahead
Obviously,
and tell me
this is straight up like just putting what he said. So it's really hard to just read it like that. But basically, yeah, they're not going to pull off any Bethesda content as of now. I mean, I'm sure when we get Starfield or any new titles for that matter, they won't be coming to the Switch. They just won't be able to run on the Switch. I don't
Well,
think.
they don't have the intent to pull content from those other platforms. So
Right.
when I see this, I'm thinking Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield are probably going to be on Sony. Like I don't see why they would want to pull it. Those games are already in development. They've already subtly suggested it's coming to next gen or whatever to all platforms. So I think that is indeed going to continue to happen. So
Yeah.
your whole little shtick about hopping on Xbox Series X land. By the way, did you get one?
Yes.
You have it,
Yes.
and
And I'm playing it, and I'm liking it.
what are you playing on it?
Um, I'm playing older games on it.
That's what I'm saying. Is there any like Xbox Series X launch games that you got for that?
Exclusive? No. No. Kind of stinks. But whatever. I'm okay with it. I've made my decision. I went Xbox. I will eventually get a PS5 this time. I will do it. Okay?
Okay.
Don't
Now,
don't get me
you
on
don't have
that.
to. I'm
No,
not
no,
getting
no.
PS5s.
Listen, are causing a tremendous amount of peer pressure. I don't like it. So
I'll get the PS5 eventually.
yeah, they're still kind of wading through some issues. So I want to make sure when I get it, I'm not paying for this $500, $600 brick. So
Yeah.
all right. So further in this article, it says Doom Eternal is one game from Bethesda that we're waiting for a Switch. Waiting on for a Switch. A release date for that version has yet to be announced. So that is one of the games that I don't think they're going to pull from Nintendo. So
Yeah, that game is so far along in development. It's not taking up time from Bethesda from like the developers, the coders and the artists and stuff like that because that's been offloaded to a porting studio.
yeah,
So,
right. All right, moving on to some heavy topics. Former Rockstar dev is now a lead producer at Retro Studios. This is a
Yep.
big get here.
It is a big get. Some people might be worried that, oh, gee whiz, Metroid Prime 4 is still so far away.
Did you
And
say
I say,
OG Whiz?
oh, gee whiz. Yep.
Okay, cool. OG Willikers.
But I will say to them, they are looking forward and that they brought on this person because not only is this person an awesome person. I
Uh,
was going to say something else. Uh, but they are also doing other things, bigger things. For example, Retro Studios is reportedly investing over $500,000 to expand their headquarters. They've been hiring like crazy. They're now, and they're getting top tier talent from across all sorts of industries. A lot of first person companies or
yep.
shooter esque companies, or people that have worked on very art graphical intensive projects, all of them AAA,
Mm-hmm.
but they're expanding their headquarters. This is going to lead to what I think is inevitable, a Metroid Prime trilogy, a second trilogy of Metroid Prime.
That would be
It's coming.
fantastic. Yeah, and if they could do it all like they did with Lord of the Rings, just do them all at once and then give it to us separately, that'd be awesome. Just so we don't have to wait so long. I mean, they've showed us this I don't know logo reveal like 3 years ago. Anyway, yeah, so this is on my Nintendo news. There continues to be no end in sight for the hiring spree that happens at Retro Studios. The company's latest addition is a lead producer, Marissa Palumbo. Palumbo worked on the Wizard team behind Overwatch for 6 years and a decade at Rockstar. Palumbo's resume at Rockstar includes GTA 4, GTA 5, LA Noire, Max Payne 3, Red Dead Redemption, and even Manhunt 2. Rip Palumbo will now be helping out development team of Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, it's it. That's a big get. And another key takeaway is that we haven't heard anything about Retro laying off or firing people.
No, in fact, like you had mentioned, they're getting AAA talent from everywhere.
They are getting big. I'm
Yeah.
liking it. Just get that Metroid game out there.
Yeah, I just hope it's not like it's not delayed, right? So like you had said that like people like me, I know you referred to people like me saying that this is never coming out. But yeah, maybe they are looking long term and
Oh yeah,
all my worries are for nothing.
they're gonna have multiple Metroids in there. You know, you know what the big question for me is like, when is that Metroid Prime trilogy coming to Switch? When?
It's coming when the Mass Effect trilogy comes out to the Switch. That's when it's
Ah,
happening.
it's got to happen. There's got to be Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 package. It already exists for the Wii
Yep.
and I think the Wii U. Like, why haven't they brought it to the Switch? Why?
Maybe the video game awards. I think it's in December. I have a really big feeling that there are going to be a lot of world premieres
Oh yeah.
on the video game awards. So that's typically though Nintendo stays away from that. So I don't know.
Nintendo's been quiet when they should have been doing bangbuster announcements during E3. We
Yeah.
didn't have E3 and nothing big
Right.
like that of
Maybe
that caliber was
right.
announced.
Maybe they have nothing
The biggest thing we got was Monster Hunter and Age of Calamity.
on for around E3.
No, that came after that. That
Yeah,
was in what?
way after.
September.
Yeah, maybe they don't
Both
want to
those
say anything,
announcements
I
were in
guess. I don't know, man.
September.
All right. Speaking of Age of Calamity, Famitsu's got some scores. You want to go over those?
Yeah, so Famitsu, they have four people typically review their games, and they gave it a 9, a 9, a 9, and a 9, which results in a 36 out of 40.
What's the
And
average?
the average is 9.
9. Okay.
So that's really good scores. However, Famitsu may not be the most reliable. They tend to sort of overhype and underrate things. Sometimes things can jump up higher than what it actually should be. I'm not saying that this is the case, but that is definitely a really good, amazing, solid score.
Hmm.
So uh, our expectations are getting up there. They're really up there.
Yeah, I mean,
And
from
just to bring it down just a little bit, we both played the demo, and I pointed this out on the demo for Age of Calamity that there is indeed frame rate issues in there as I was playing it, and as most people listening have probably found on like Digital Foundry or Game Explain or some other uh, video place analysis place, they have confirmed that the frame rate is pretty choppy when things get very hectic in the game,
I'm okay with that.
and the resolution drops because
I'm
it
all
has
right with that.
the dynamic resolution scaling. The game still looks good. Like there was never a moment where the action was so heavy that things looked ugly and blurry. Things still looked good, but the resolution or the frame rate definitely dropped a bit and was choppy pretty much throughout the entirety of the game.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 had dynamic resolution and frame rate issues. I love that game. Oh, it doesn't bother me.
Yep. Well, this is way more action intensive than Xenoblade.
Well, the times that it did that were times of combat. Typically, is when I saw it.
Yeah, yeah. But the combat responsiveness is less of an issue in Xenoblade 2 than it is
Yeah. Well,
in
it's
Age
not
of
like we're
Calamity.
playing Dark Souls here. It's just mostly button mashing type stuff anyway.
Yeah,
That's how
that
that's
is.
how I play it. I play with my nose. I hit buttons with my nose and my elbows. Like a madman when I play that game.
You know, speaking of Xenoblade, I'm gonna lump sum all of these little newsy tidbits, and that
Whoa.
Nintendo has done another quarterly report where they're sort of touting their numbers to their investors and saying, "Hey, look at how awesome we are!"
Hmm.
Because oh my goodness, they made some big numbers. So Nintendo, the Switch has now surpassed the original NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System, on worldwide sales. So it's past that. It's at the time of reporting, it's at 68.3 million units. It's probably over 70 million by this point. The Switch, let's see, they updated the million sellers, or more than a million sellers. Actually, they didn't even get that low because I think they were starting at like games that sold over 2 or 3 million and started
Hmm.
working their way up. And there's so many games. I think Breath of the Wild is now above 20 million. Mario Odyssey is right around 20 million or almost above it. Uh, Mario Kart is crazy, and just their games are selling absolutely bonkers. Xenoblade, which is typically not I mean, it's kind of niche for an audience, and that game, Xenoblade 2, has sold over 2 million units. The original Xenoblade, or the Xenoblade Remaster Remake
Right.
one, the definitive edition, is well over a million units, and that came out earlier this year. So Nintendo is just doing absolutely phenomenal sales wise. And a big takeaway is that the president of Nintendo, Mr. Furukawa, has basically stated that he wants more third party titles to be on the Switch because he kind of views them as being a core part of the ecosystem for essentially a mutual benefit, right?
BioWare. Yeah. Hmm.
I'm with you.
Like like I have Mass Effect on my Wii U. Come on, guys, get it together.
Bethesda. I would like Fallout 4 to be on my Switch. That would be nice.
Well, I don't know if I. Well, I mean, I want these games to be on the Switch, right? Because I want other people to play them. I've already played them. I don't see myself going back to them. Like, I'm not going back to any of the Mass Effects. I just want people to experience who haven't experienced, bring it to a whole new audience, right? Same thing with Fallout, whether it's Fallout 3, 4, or New Vegas. Bring those in again for the new audience, people who haven't, who hadn't played them before. Again, I don't see myself playing them because I've already enjoyed them. I've already played them, but I want other people to play them. That's my thing. That is my thing. All right, Rumorland. Rumorland.
Rumorland.
Wait, should I start putting sound effects in these things?
Yeah, maybe. I
Okay.
think so.
All right. Well, I'll have to track some down, I guess. Dragon Quest Dragon Quest creator teases announcements for the 35th anniversary next year. I think this is from do we have his name here? Oh, yes, Dragon Quest creator Yuji Horii. Thank you very much for today. Next year, Dragon Quest will celebrate its 35th anniversary. I believe we will be able to make all sorts of announcements in regards to that. And there are still a whole lot of fun to look forward to in Ast- Astoltia. Oh, that's the Dragon Quest, the world of Dragon Quest X. Please continue to support Dragon Quest in the future. Thank you very much. So when is this happening?
Dragon Quest X. Is that the MMO?
That is the
Dragon
MMO.
Quest?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm trying to figure out when this celebration is happening. This is next year. Is that in 2021?
I believe it's 2021, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
next year we might have
2021.
some more
At some
stuff.
point. At some point. And I guess, 35th anniversary, they're making a statement, so it's probably going to be a bunch of game announcements and special stuff. You know what? They might, cuz Dragon Quest 10, that was the 3DS game or DS game?
Dragon Quest
3DS?
10?
10.
I don't think so. I never played it, so I wouldn't know. I thought it was 8 that was on the 3DS and maybe
No,
9.
9. What was 10 on? Let's see here.
10 is their MMO, is it not?
Wait, it says it's on Nintendo Switch.
Maybe
What?
in Japan maybe.
Oh, okay. It is on the 3DS. Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. So it's on the 3DS. I guess they ported it to the Switch, but never brought that version over here. It's on the
Okay.
PS4. It's on the Wii U. Interesting.
Who has a Wii U?
Eh.
I do.
What I was gonna say is they were gonna port it to the Switch, but no, that's not
It's
happening.
well, it's there. I mean, they could translate it to the Switch. I mean, to the West.
You
Why
know
wouldn't
what?
they have done that?
It's probably gonna be Dragon Quest 12. Because I mean, it has been 3 years, over 3 years, since the initial release of Dragon Quest 11,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a long time to be working on yet another game. So I can,
Yeah, so if they were to announce it, then that would be next year, and that would have been maybe 4 years, so maybe
yeah,
a year to release. That's feasible, I think.
yeah. And if they announce it early next year, then I can easily see it come out at the end of next year.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see a new one. I would like to see Dragon Quest X brought over because I really feel like the Switch needs an MMO. Granted, yes, I understand the network. Um, well, it's not so much the network. Yeah, the network is a problem, but it's more like the voicing. You know, like the chat, being able to talk with people. That's the biggest problem.
Well, you know what? For the MMO land of stuff, I think Monster Hunter Rise is going to solve that. I mean, yes, it's not an MMO, but it scratches that MMO itch.
How
Totally.
so? How?
Because the game's multiplayer, drop in, drop out multiplayer. You're playing with your friends, doing co-op. You're doing the grind over and over and over again. There's always something harder to do. It's kind of like doing dungeon runs in MMOs and doing raids, but you're playing with your friends because it's 4 player.
Okay. Well,
They can run around your town. You invite them in. They run around
now, is
on
Monster Hunter Rise just local co-op? Oh, it does have online co-op, 4 players. Okay.
all the I mean, as
Yeah,
far back as Monster Hunter tried,
yeah.
it had online with voice. It was one of those weird Wii games that actually supported voice chat.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. Local co-op 4 players, online co-op 4 players. Yeah. So and combine. I guess you can do combo, local and online for up to 4 players. Cool. So yeah, in regards to Dragon Quest, I'm sure we'll see some more movies. We did have a Netflix Your Story Dragon Quest film. I'm sure we'll have another one of those. Hopefully, probably some ports of either old Dragon Quest games, or maybe more recent 10 a localization, or and Dragon Quest 12. Would you want to see like them rehash everything, like change up their art style and everything, like Tales of Arise had
No,
done?
I like their art style. I just want them to change their gameplay.
Yeah,
Their
yeah. I
gameplay is
mean,
so dated.
I know it's turn based and everything, but I mean, I don't understand the whole arena concept. If it's just turn based, what's the point of moving your character? Is there any? I never got that.
There's
That
no point.
right. It just confuses me. Anyway, what else we got? Image Informed says that they are making new SteamWorld Dig games. So these are the folks that have made, they made SteamWorld Quest 1 and 2, SteamWorld, no, not 1 and 2. What am I talking about? My goodness, is it SteamWorld Quest?
SteamWorld Dig.
SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2, SteamWorld Quest.
SteamWorld Quest,
They did
Hand of
Gil.
Gilgamesh.
Yep,
Yep. They also did SteamWorld Heist, which is that turn-based tactical one.
yep. Those are
Or
the two more RPG ones. Is Heist and Quest.
yep.
Quest definitely.
And Dig is more Metroidvania
Yeah,
esque.
Dig is actually really fun. I really dug that game. But yeah, they this was in a tweet. I guess there was a lot of rumors that they weren't doing well. And someone asked them, would there ever be another SteamWorld Dig game? And this is, we're making new SteamWorld games, and we're not ruling out sequels. We would love to revisit earlier games in the series. I don't follow them that far away, so I wouldn't know what else they've worked on. But yeah, that's kind of cool.
I I think my only issue, like they are definitely a talented studio and they make great games. It's just I would like them to branch out of the Steam world
Yeah,
aesthetic and go into like something else entirely, because Steam world is, I mean, when you look at the aesthetic and you look at the characters, it's more towards a younger audience, and
sure.
it'd be nice if there was they went in a different direction, maybe something for an older audience,
Okay.
perhaps.
That totally makes sense. Something branch off, right?
Yeah.
Or a new tree altogether. Is that what you
Well, yeah. Instead of doing a Steam World game, make I don't know, Ice World, right?
cyberpunk world?
There we go, Cyberpunk.
Whoa. All right. What else we got here? Oh, yes. Sega looking into back catalog of Atlas for remasters and remakes due to Persona 4 Golden PC success.
This is
Now,
an awesome rumor.
this is what?
This is an awesome rumor.
It is an awesome rumor because Atlas's catalog is massive. And if we were to, do you have a list pulled up of Atlas?
I don't have a list, but as you said, I'm gonna pull up a list. But yeah, it's massive and it's almost exclusively RPGs. They got so many RPGs under their belt.
Yeah,
It is insane, and it goes back 30 years. it's it just keeps going back. They got so many. They've not only have they developed, but they've also published so many games and so many RPGs.
yeah. I mean, they've had games on the NES, so yeah, they go way far back here. So let me just read here again at My Nintendo News. Sega president and CEO Haruki Satomi recently held a video presentation after the company's results for the fiscal year ending March 2021. During the presentation, Mr. Satomi spoke about the company's desire to revisit Atlas's extensive back catalog after the success of the release Persona 4 Golden on PC platform Steam. Here's a summary of the company's future plans for a number of key Atlas series. Sega is working on working with different partners to expand the release to platforms beyond the Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo bubble, which I guess that only leaves maybe Stadia, Amazon, or PC there. I don't know. Sega had not been proactive about releasing Atlas titles on Steam until now, but the direct port of Persona 4 Golden on PC far exceeded their expectations. As a result, Persona 4 Golden's success, Sega wants to release more ports, remasters, and remakes from their catalog of Atlas games. So I don't know if that means more recent games.
Could be. I mean, they still have, just from this past decade, they still have so many. They got a whole bunch of Shin Megami Tensei
Yeah.
games, a whole bunch of Persona games. They got the Etrarian, see, just that
The
Etrarian Odyssey, but they have like a bunch of other
yeah,
Etrarian games.
Etrian Odyssey, yep.
Etrian, Devil Summoner series. They got Radiant Historia, Perfect Chronology, which I beat earlier this year. What else they got? They got that's just stuff that's on the 3DS.
Yeah. Yeah, they could go on for forever, but if they're looking kind of recently, you got, like you had mentioned, the SMTs, the perfect I'm sorry, the Radiant Historia. Apparently they worked on Demon Souls. I don't they just recently what did they do with Demon Souls? I want to say they helped
I
publish.
think it's probably publishing in Japan probably.
Okay.
Uh, they did Trauma Center, which is a Wii game,
Mhm.
and also DS game. They also did Nights in a Nightmare. I talked about that game. It's this weird, rare game that I played and found very fascinating. Uh, what other nuggets? They did Catherine, Tokyo Mirage Session.
Yeah. They have a lot that they could be doing.
Yeah, and I haven't even started to look. Their their list of original PlayStation games is massive.
Mhm.
There are so many.
So who knows? Maybe we'll get some of that soon. Time will tell. All right, so very recent news. This was actually today, I believe this happened. Yes, it was today. Capcom ransomware leak reveals Monster Hunter Rise and Stories 2 coming to PC and new Ace Attorney collection for the Switch. Now this actually bothers me. I don't know about you, but I wanted Monster Hunter Rise for my own. I don't
To
I
be
don't want
exclusive on the
e-
Switch?
exclusive. I don't want to share.
Who cares?
I care. Hey.
Look. I have a gaming PC, but they're presenting a game that is tailor made for the Switch, and it's probably going to look better and run better on the PC. I don't care.
Okay.
That's going to
Well,
be a Switch game for me because you know what? Even though my PC is great, like if the game comes on Switch and it runs well enough, I'm getting it on Switch because just nothing beats that portability.
yeah.
Just nothing beats it. I don't want to sit in my computer chair
All day.
all day. Yeah.
All right.
I
So here's kind of a summary. Just first and foremost, I was under the impression that there was a lot of customer information that was breached, and this says that there was no customer
There probably
information.
was. There probably was.
Well, that's what I'm just again on my Nintendo news. I don't know where they got their stuff from here. It looks like reset era. So take this all with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
So hopefully no customer information was breached. But like I said, the Monster Hunter Rise and Stories 2 going to the PC. And then we have some Resident Evil stuff. Resident Evil Village details current gen release, April launch. Did we know when that was coming out?
No,
Okay.
no. And there's going to be a demo that's going to come out for that. So that's exciting because I'll definitely try that out. I hope it doesn't play like Resident Evil 7. I know it's going to be similar to it. I just want it to be better than 7
Yeah. Yep.
because 7 was okay.
All right. Then we have a new multiplayer Resident Evil referred to internally as Project Highway. Village Online. It says here it's a battle royale of sort.
Yeah,
I don't know if I thought we were beyond the battle royale thing, but Fortnite seems to be doing pretty dang good.
yeah, it could be good. I
Yeah.
mean, so there's a bunch of stuff. Let's go through this a bit quick. That Ace Attorney collection, so PS4 and Switch. Were you an Ace Attorney fan,
No.
by the way? Yeah, neither am I. But potentially a good series for people to get excited for,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's a big package come together. So a new project. This is something to pay attention to. New project, codenamed Guillotine, for the Switch, allegedly coming out in February, and first on Switch in February, and then it also says it's gonna come out to other platforms in May, so maybe like PC. This might be another like Switch and PC thing,
I don't
or
like it.
maybe Switch and other platforms. But Guillotine, I have no clue what that is.
Yeah, who
It
knows? They give
Cry.
these things such arbitrary names, so it's tough to say.
Could be Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Guillotine. I don't know if I see Guillotine, I'm like thinking maybe that's Devil May Cry type thing. It seems like something that they'd call.
Oh,
I don't
I
know. A
gotcha.
guillotine is a French thing, right?
It's French. I don't know. Is it
They
French? I don't know.
There's another unannounced project called Reiwa or Rewa.
Yeah.
Reiwa.
R
It's
Reiwa.
That's going to come out in May, or I guess maybe it'll be announced in May. There's no platforms associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about the Monster Hunter stuff. Apparently, Resident Evil 4 is gonna come out on Oculus
Wait,
VR.
hang on. Monster Hunter Rise on PC released in October 2021. Demos for Switch in January and March. Monster Hunter Stories 2 on PC targeted in June 2021. That does. Oh wait, single player online, co-op and PvP modes, paid DLC expansions, free post-launch co-op quests, cosmetic MTX, and amiibo support plan for Monster Hunter Stories 2.
Cosmetic MTX.
What does that
What?
mean? I don't know what cosmetic MTX means.
Motocross? Is that the four wheeler?
Cosmetic motocross?
Why is that in a Monster Hunter game? That's
I
weird.
don't know if that's what it means, but that is weird.
Oh, MTX might be microtransaction.
There we go. Cosmetic microtransactions. Well,
Yeah.
that makes more sense than motocross.
Well, I know the game has environmental traversal. So I was
Yeah.
wondering, like, they're gonna put in like the Zelda style like course
Oh
cycle.
yeah. Yeah.
As I said before, Resident Evil 4 is coming to VR.
That
That's
could be a
exciting.
that could be a really cool experience. Resident Evil 4 VR.
Oh, Resident Evil 4 is phenomenal. I would buy that game again if it was in VR, but
Huh.
not for Oculus because I don't have Oculus.
Ah.
So, another new shooter multiplayer game called titled Shield. It's geared towards streamers. Okay. Source code for Devil May Cry 2 and Umbrella Chronicles. I guess they kind of dug that up, whatever that means. And then apparently Google Stadia, paid Capcom $10 million to put Resident Evil 7 and 8 on their platform. So
Wow.
Google's being very desperate. I'm like, please, Capcom, give us Resident Evil. Here's $10 million.
There's no
Our
way they
platform's
they
dying.
recoup that money. I don't buy it. This is
And
just
apparently, Sony paid $5 million to have Resident Evil 7 VR and timed DLC be exclusive to Sony's VR product.
interesting.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Although that's understandable because the VR edition that is extra effort.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's crazy. That's a lot of compromised stuff there. Nothing is safe, guys. Okay, so what we're going to discuss now are some RPGs we'd like to have remade. Now, I'm gonna have you explain this because it seems like every time I explain it, it gets off the rails, and
Okay.
I don't want to get it off the rails.
All right. So, what we were kind of spitballing a bit was, as you said, RPGs, and by RPGs, there's a lot of them. So we kind of refined it down to Nintendo RPGs, and by Nintendo, what we mean is games that Nintendo has developed or games that Nintendo has published in some form.
Hmm.
So, games that Nintendo would have to be involved with in one way or another in order to in order for the remake to occur. Nintendo has to sanction it in some way because they were involved, right? Because they either published it in the US or they published it in Japan or they published it in wherever, Europe, somewhere, something like that, or they did more than that. So, published it as a minimum or more. So that's the sort of the refinement that we're going through. So we have to like really search and figure out which particular games fall into this category. And you'll be kind of surprised because quite a few games do fall into this category. Some of these games I will quickly go over because there was a lot, and there were games that we definitely wanted to sort of get remade, uh, but they weren't enough. They didn't bring enough to the table, or other reasons. So these are kind of like honorable mentions of we almost wanted to have these games remade, but in order to come up with a smaller, more refined list, we had to exclude these. So not to say that they're bad or anything like that. They just sorry they didn't make the list. So some of those games are the Final Fantasy 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Hmm.
Nintendo has had their hands in publishing those in one form or another, but they didn't quite make it. So another one would be Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, Crystallis, Bait and Kados, Eternal Wings in the Lost Ocean, Golden Sun, the series, just that whole series,
That whole
uh,
series.
Children of Mana, Illusion of Gaia, and Secret of Evermore. So, unfortunately, those games were just giving them the mention because more. There are other games that are more pressing for our remake demand.
Hmm.
Now, what are these demands? We're gonna, as we discuss each of these games, we're going to talk about, any potential gameplay changes that we want to have happen, uh, direction for visual and audio changes. Some of these can get very dramatic, and some of these changes may be less of a visual overhaul or a different direction that wasn't expected. So there's that. There are elements that the original games have that either won't work in modern day gaming or was poorly implemented on its first release, and we want to have completely overhauled. So we'll make mention of those. We'll also mention stuff that we want to keep because that's the special magic of the original game. So we'll cite off what the keepers are, and then maybe if there's some sort of innocuous game. For example, if we say, uh, for example, we say, "Oh, remake this game in the style of how they handled Final Fantasy VII remake," right? Something like that. So we might associate it with some other remake that was already done and say, "Do it like how they did it." With that, we can open up with our first game that we want to have remade. You want to go?
No, no, you are on a roll. Just go, man. Go.
Okay. Well, the first game that is on our list, and this one's a doozy. It is a juggernaut. It's also the 80 million pound gorilla in the room, or the elephant in the room. Everyone has wanted this. I want this. It is Final Fantasy VI. Absolutely legendary game. It's got a lot going for it. Let's just the keepers. We definitely want the story to be kept, right?
Yeah, I think that's
We want
definitely.
that cast, that massive, massive cast of characters. We
Hmm.
want that kept. The
Yep.
villain. We want the villain kept,
Yep.
right? So we're keeping a whole lot of that stuff.
I would
Is
change the
there
music. I would change the music.
well, all right, now we're going into audio video territory,
Yep.
and we want orchestrated. We going towards orchestrated, completely get rid of the chiptune stuff.
That's exactly what I want, and I'd like to further elaborate on that if I could,
Go for it.
and go into over the what I want it to be overhauled into. Okay, so yes, I'd like the full live orchestrated music. I'd like to see this in the style of Octopath Traveler, so the HD 2D. I think that
I'm
would
totally with you. Yeah.
I think that would fit really, really well. In fact, Switch RPG has a an article as to what it may look like. It's if you search our site, it is called Project Final Fantasy VI.
Oh my goodness.
So there's some screenshots of what it might look like, and I think if it's just done in that style, I think it just kind of replicate what they've done there. I don't know what else we could change. I don't want the break system like Octopath has. I want it straight up turn-based RPG. I don't want a break system. Uh,
That is a big change if they were to include something like that. Uh, I would say the combat system does need to be a little bit more nuanced.
okay,
So, what if, in case people aren't aware, Final Fantasy VI has it's a very traditional turn-based combat system, but every character has something unique about them that only they do. So that aspect definitely keep, but it also has some of the kind of older style things of you have mana that will deplete as you continue, and then you have to either rest or use consumables to restore mana. And I would say let's overhaul that and turn it into maybe borrow from RFL or other games similar to that, where you start off with zero mana and it builds up at the start of battle, and so you have to work with it as a growing income
a
instead of
source, yeah,
as a long term budget.
yeah,
So just flipping that a little bit, and that would obviously require a whole bunch of potential changes. But if it's possible to do that, just reworking of the combat system to make it more nuanced. That's what I would want.
okay. Can I compound on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I say, yeah, if these characters have individual talents, why not have their talents work together? Like to have teamwork attacks, depending on who's in the party.
Oh yeah. So borrowing from the Chrono Trigger.
There you go. So again, depending on what characters are in the party, will change on what this teamwork. And they could be grand, right? Like they should be, right? You're teamworking, and they don't always have to do damage. Maybe they can do other things, um, on there. Maybe sleep or whatever status effects. They don't always have to do damage.
And I would like to. So I'm totally with you on the Octopath Traveler style graphics, but I don't want cutscenes in a way of like full motion videos and stuff like that. Instead, I want these sprites to just have a lots of animation work to them, so that we see the sprites be way more expressive and showing via animation rather than an emote of sorts, because sometimes in these older RPGs they sort of cheated by doing like a little bubble
Yeah,
that shows a smiley face or something like that, or they'll hop and that would then be an excited, or they'll
sure.
hop and then have like steam coming out of their head and that's them angry, right? So instead of doing stuff like that, I want them to actually do an animation where they like punch a table or if they're angry, or slap someone if they're upset with them, right? I want to see them actually do unique animations, sprite based animations to play out story beats and story events.
Here's another thing though. Do you want voice acting?
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
do.
Yes.
See, if it's done well, there's no
It will be.
problems,
It
right?
will be. We're
If it
making this.
if there's one problem with one character, I don't know, say in Octopath Travel you choose Alphen and he's just awful.
Eh,
Um do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you could have the one that people don't like. I'm not saying Alphen's bad. I'm just saying, if there's that one, it could be bad. So, but all right. So fully voiced.
It could just give it to the team that did Fire Emblem,
Yeah, they
right?
were excellent. Yeah,
There's a ton of characters. All the voice acting on all the characters are all great,
yeah, I agree.
or at the very least serviceable,
No,
if
they're
not.
yeah, no, they're all really well done. So okay.
There you go. There's the solution. So we can do the voice acting. The talent is there. It can work.
All right, so we've now we just need to finance the project.
Yes.
Cool.
Well,
That's not a
we're
problem.
telling Nintendo to finance it.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
They're listening to us.
We're just the idea guys.
Speaking of Nintendo, hey Nintendo, this game, very old game, and a weird game, and we totally want Nintendo to remake this. And I think of the games in this franchise, and the franchise is Zelda, of all the games that need to be remade, I think Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, needs to be remade the most. This game was so out there in Weird Land and did so many things for the first time in the Zelda franchise that has since been borrowed here and there,
Hmm.
piecemeal style, up until Breath of the Wild, where it definitely borrowed heavily. But Zelda 2 really hit home the sort of role playing and grandiose nature of this world. They sold it. There were multiple towns that you could enter. There were tons of NPCs. You could get quests. There was it still had the dungeon exploring and puzzle solving in the dungeons. And a big thing it did was the combat system altogether was just completely overhauled into this sort of side scroll fencing game. Really interesting combat system, especially for the time relative to the games that came out during that time. It was kind of like a Dark Soulsy dance type of
You
combat
can't say
system.
Dark Souls like can't do it anymore.
Well, if you ask me, I mean, the Dark Souls franchise has Zelda 2 to sort of tip their hat to because Zelda 2 did it first because it was a very nuanced combat system. It wasn't straightforward. It wasn't just spam the attack button on an enemy and it dies because the enemies as you go through, as you get past the very trivial enemies at the very beginning, you're coming across enemies that are going to block your attacks,
Hmm.
and if you're aiming high, they're gonna block high, and if you aim low, they'll block low. Or you might have to sort of jump and attack them on their head, or jump behind them. Or maybe there's gonna be some times where you might have to cast a spell or something like that to damage them or to make them vulnerable. Very nuanced combat system.
Hmm. But you can't say Souls like.
I can't say Souls like.
No, you can't do it. All right,
So what?
so
Yeah.
what are we changing? What are we keeping? What are we doing here?
All right. Keepers. I think the combat system, keeping it side scroll,
Okay.
adding more to it, but especially nailing home that dance, that sort of fencing dance that you did, that one on one. Sometimes you had more than one enemy, but keeping that sort of intensity there and that high action
Okay.
level of combat, and keeping the nuance of you have to control where you're blocking the enemy's attacks and you have to control where you're attacking based on where the enemy is blocking their attack. They
Okay.
added something similar to that in Skyward Sword, where you had to actually change the method of where you're attacking, physically attacking the enemy in Skyward Sword. And I would love for them to bring that back in Zelda 2. It doesn't, if they did it like Skyward Sword, then they could do it in 3D. But I would say play homage to the original game and make it 2D side scroll, and really up the elements of the combat system. Uh, just by having those extra buttons, they're going to make the combat system way more responsive and more dynamic. Because I think you have to hit like the select button or the pause button in order to access your menu for casting spells,
Yeah, yeah.
changing up some other stuff.
They,
So
they
they're
were they were limited on buttons.
very limited. So just by having more buttons, you're going to be able to do so much more stuff into the game. And they could even do something like, if you remember games like, what was it? Wario, the Virtual Boy, the um the Wario game on the Virtual Boy, where you had the front lane. It's a side scroller, but it had like multiple layers of depth
Is that
that you could.
is it WarioWare?
Not WarioWare. I think it's Wario Land. I don't know. Wario Virtual Boy. If you search for that, you'll
Oh,
probably find it.
all right, Virtual Boy Wario Land.
There you go. Virtual Boy Wario Land. And if you watch it, there's like multiple layers to the scrolling, the plane that you can travel. So you can hop into the foreground or the background. And I could easily see them incorporating that.
I see that. Okay.
Yeah, they can incorporate that into the combat system of Zelda, where there is a foreground and a background into this remake. And now, not only are you blocking high, low in front of you and behind you, but you also have to block enemies that might be doing an attack as they jump into your plane. So they're coming from the background into the
Okay.
foreground where you are and doing like a jumping attack. So you'd have to block them in the process of doing that or prevent them from hitting you. So you could sort of hit enemies that are in the background. The enemies that are in the background could hit you. So that becomes another few layers. And you can do that more than just 2 layers. You could do that as like 3 layers, 4 layers, 5 layers as a possibility. I'm not saying to do it, but that would add a huge new element to the combat system.
I
I'm not
gotcha.
saying it's necessary, but it could be something that they do. Nintendo has done stuff like that in the past. And
Sure.
there are other games, there are other RPGs that have done that type of combat system. There's one on Saturn, I forgot what it was called.
I know.
Really awesome combat system.
I want to say Shadow Complex does something similar to that.
No. Shadow Complex doesn't have a
No.
foreground background.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. You're right. They don't do that. Um, but I mean, I think if you could get Zelda 2 in the same vein as even like Shadow Complex, or another game that I really like is Samus Returns, the remake there. I think if you can get the combination of the two there, I think the Zelda 2's combat, while it's good, is very rigid. Because it's just up, down, up, down. You need some 3D workspace there. So I want to loosen that up. Maybe even you could probably even add attacks or combinations of things
Yeah.
to Link's repertoire
They
just by doing that.
Yeah, the big thing with Zelda 2 is that it didn't have as many items. I don't think it had the boomerang or the arrow, right? The bow and arrow and the boomerang.
I thought it had the arrow. I don't know about the boomerang.
I forgot what items, but it certainly wasn't even close to the typical repertoire of items. And you can imagine adding like the grappling hook and the bow and the arrow and the other things, and these things coming into play in the combat system.
Right,
Kind
keeping
of
it
like
side scrolling, keeping it,
kind of like Smash Brothers, right? You're taking the move set of Link in Smash Brothers, and now you're putting that in a Zelda 2 remade kind of world.
hmm
And you can, if you make it more, less, knocking the enemy away like Smash Brothers is, but more so a nuanced, uh, potentially penalizing system, kind of like Dark Souls, where you really do have to get good. Uh, Incorporate it into that. Now, another thing that I think they need to overhaul, and it's also a keeper, but it's also an overhaul, is the towns and the overworld.
yeah.
I just want them to like really nail the immersion factor into this world of Zelda, because they definitely went full ham on it. It's a darker telling of the Zelda storyline. It's one of the darkest actually, uh, and there's a huge opportunity for Link's interactions with the NPCs, the quests that he gets, being let's remove the trivialness of it, and just further sort of sell that immersion factor.
Yeah, when he's in towns, it's got to be the most boring experience, right? The only good parts in Zelda 2 are the actual combats. When they're in town, there's really it doesn't I don't feel like it adds much of anything. So, maybe again, like you had said, making that more immersive would definitely help that. I think just making it look better will help that. But yeah, all you got are text bubbles from some of these uh these NPCs. I don't know, maybe incorporating some side quests. Maybe I don't know. I think that
Oh,
that could
more
definitely
more
work.
side quests. Yeah.
Yeah, more side quests. Yeah,
Yeah. And other side things. So the overworld part, the only issue, the one of the major issues of it was there wasn't enough interesting areas to explore in there. It was all stuff that you kind of needed to go to, and the rest of the overworld was kind of sparse
yeah,
on points of interest. So if they were to sort of further immerse the player and allow them to explore more stuff and get rewarded for that exploration, and to add more flexibility as to what they could explore, that would be great as
Are,
well.
are there puzzle aspects in the overworld?
It's more like obstacles. I can't remember there being any major puzzle aspects to the overworld other than you had to get an item in order to get past a barricade or
Yeah,
some sort of blockade
yeah.
in order
They
to
they'd have to
progress.
refine that because the overworld just seems like, I don't know, it just seems unnecessary. You could almost remove it if you really at this point. I mean, if you work in the changes that we suggest Nintendo, it could be more interesting.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it does seem like, I don't know, it seems arbitrary. You know?
Now I did mention, so you mentioned an art style, and then I mentioned a counter art style. Not on the cast. Did you look up what I mentioned?
Well, I'm sorry. What did you mention?
So it was on, I think it was on, I linked it on Discord, where we were talking about the art style for how this remake would look,
Yep.
and I found the original concept art
Oh
for
yes.
Zelda 2,
Yep.
and I thought it looked incredible. It was darker. It was a cartoon comic like art style, but it was like 80s comic, and it was mature.
Yes.
It was an adult-ish, an older Link. It wasn't like a kid Link or a chibi Hobbit Link, and it just had like this art style to it, and I would love for the remake to do exactly what they did in that artwork, to just be the entire game looking like that concept art.
Yes. So if you go to, I think it's historyofhyrule.com, you can find the artwork there. But yes, I'm trying to think of another game that does this kind of artwork in their game. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think this would be really cool, except for when you go down to the really bottom, it just looks like Smurfs. Like Link looks like a Smurf. I really don't like that, but I do like the older Link in his tunic. I think that looks really really cool. Yeah, I could go for that kind of art style. Now, but again, I'm trying to remember if there is something done in that art style. Can you think you can't think of anything?
I can't think. There's a lot of indie games that probably come
Yeah.
close, but I can't think of anything that exactly matches that. You know what? Maybe Dragon's Lair, the arcade game.
Yeah, but that's definitely more cell shaded, nothing like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, you want to take the next one on the next game that we definitely want Nintendo to remake?
Yeah, sure. I've never played it though. But I can certainly go through. I know a billion of other people have played it. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
game, if you may or may not have heard of it, I don't know. It's called Earthbound. I don't know. I mean I'm very familiar with the game, obviously. and I've seen a lot of gameplay. I've watched a lot of gameplay. I honestly don't know how much of it I would even change, to be honest with you.
Oh, visually, you could change a whole lot.
Do you
There,
want to though?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go art style. I would go. Rick and Morty. Actually, a game did this art style not too long ago called what was it? Swords of Ditto.
Oh yes, 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 yes.
That art style. So I would
Okay.
love to go something similar to that. It's like a very hand drawn, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim sort of art style.
Okay.
So revamp all the visuals to that instead of doing the pixel, the Super Nintendo pixel graphics of Earthbound. Uh, Update it to that, higher fidelity artwork, and the elements to overhaul. So this is a Dragon Quest style combat system.
I got to tell you
Except
though, man, if you change this game too much, you were just going to anger a lot of people. And while I love the Swords of Ditto
Yep.
art style, it's kind of like the thin line comic book art style. I really do like that. You're going to have a lot of angry nerds. Ain't going to be
Well,
pretty.
what would you do? Like, how else could you improve? I mean, we could go the Octopath Traveler route, and you definitely keep the fans happy.
No, I wouldn't say you'd have to do that. Could you do something kind of in between? Um Maybe have your hand drawn background environment, but keep your 2D pixel art sprite. Would that work?
You know what? What could work really well is the Paper Mario style, especially the newest one.
What?
Yeah, but not like Paper Mario. So they would look. I guess they would look like sprites. Maybe they could look like high resolution sprites, but not look like they're paper cutouts.
But pixel art?
But it would still, well, it wouldn't be pixel art. It'd be like kind of like how Mario was pixelated, and then in Paper Mario they drew out Mario.
Yeah.
All right, so it's no longer pixel art, but it is a Mario sprite in Paper
Hmm.
Mario, Paper Mario 2, and well, the newest Paper Mario for that matter.
Right.
Right, but instead of having that white border outline to indicate that it was a paper cutout, you just get rid of that entirely. So you're playing as a 2D sprite, but in a 3D world.
Right.
But the sprite is not a pixelated sprite. I
So
mean, I could
you
totally see that happen.
so you would totally forego the pixel art in that situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, the original game when it comes to sort of Super Nintendo games, yeah, and the artwork in them, they're kind of just forever gonna be good.
Yeah.
So trying to overhaul or revamp that, or to remake this, bear in mind this is a remake.
Right, right.
This is an opportunity to do something different, and if you have that opportunity, why not go crazy, right? Because we're also bringing this to a brand new audience that's never played this.
Right. I'm just trying to think of a better way to do this. I mean, could we yes, keep it pixel art and, change like have some dynamic lighting, obviously upscale everything, just update the pixel art itself to look just better.
uh, I mean, if you can't upgrade or update pixel art to look better. It's always going to look pixelated. That's the whole point of it.
No,
If you make it higher resolution, it won't look like pixel art anymore.
hmm. No, I know, and I know what you mean.
I mean, we could go the furthest that we could go and still have things kind of look pixel arty is essentially the Symphony of Night, Castlevania Symphony of Night.
Yep.
That's like the highest fidelity pixel art that you can get without while still sort of being pixel art.
Okay. So here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a gameplay video of the game eastward, and I think that's where you want to go.
Where
It-
I want to go, or where you
That's where
want to go?
that's where I want to go.
That's where you want to go.
Where I want to go. Now this is it's not turn based, so
Okay.
this is just obviously for overworld perspective. This would be the game.
Well, this is very. It's not too far off the beaten path for Earthbound at all.
Right. And that's what I mean. I want to really keep the aesthetic of it all. I mean, the
Okay.
battle system we'll discuss. I don't know. I'm totally sold on the battle system, but I mean,
Well, this is similar to what I originally said, which was Sword of Ditto.
right. But this is more pixel art. Swords of Ditto is actually hand drawn.
Right. Well, I don't know. This is on the border of pixel art and animated cartoon. It's sort of an in between of the two.
Well, Johnny, this is what I want. Okay.
I'm with you. You know what? If this is how Earthbound remake needs to go, I am totally with you. I'm on board 100%.
Now, how about the battle animations, the battle system?
Yeah, so it's Dragon Quest, except the unique thing is the rolling damage that it has. So if you deal damage to an enemy, it's not immediate chunk of their health gets whittled away. The health, the HP bars, especially for your own characters, they have like a Rolodex thing, and they
Hmm.
start to roll back. So if the enemy were to hit you for 100 damage, it would start to roll the single digits slowly. So after about, I don't know, 3 seconds of time, you took the full 100 damage. But if you were able to heal yourself before that 3 seconds is over, you would stop the rollback of damage, and then it would go forward so that you would start to heal. So you can
Okay.
actually kind of like that red bar, that lingering red bar of health in fighting games, you could sort of stop it midway through before taking the full brunt of the damage.
Gotcha.
That's a unique thing, and I would love for them to take that even further than what they have in there, and potentially incorporate it more so with the enemies as well to make it more challenging and nuanced.
Would you keep the same look and feel of it?
Sure.
Still having that forward perspective, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. They could do that. No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I think it actually sounds really really cool. How about the music? How we keeping that? We keeping it still kind of chip tune type of
We're
stuff?
redoing it.
We're
Redoing
redoing
it.
it. We're
Oh
doing
yeah.
full rock, like rock band, rock music. What are we doing?
We're gonna go with taking the tunes, just rehashing it. I would say probably something like jazzy and city like. So I would say like city music. So you get pop, lots of pop music, different varieties though.
Okay.
Pop music, and it'll be tied to sort of the environments that you're in. You know what? If there is one sort of genre of music that kind of fits Earthbound, it would be disco, because
Ooh.
there's a lot of disco. Yeah, there's a lot of disco references in Earthbound. There's hippies and disco dancers and weird stuff like that. It's also like kind of a trippy game, so I would say something to that extent could absolutely work. So some disco music, yeah.
Nice
And you know
disco.
what? With that being said, they could even incorporate into the combat system some sort of rhythm action thing.
Yeah,
So
doesn't Undertale do a little bit of that?
I don't know because I've never played
Oh,
Undertale.
okay. I thought they had kind of like kind of random type of battle things going on it, but
Perhaps.
I'm
So
speaking out of turn here.
if they do the rhythm element, incorporate a rhythm element to the combat, I would like it to be kind of like the action presses that you do during Super Mario RPG or Paper Mario games. where you have to sort of time your hits.
Okay.
And if you time your hits according to the battle music, all the better. That would be phenomenal, especially on both on the offensive and on the defensive, and that
Okay.
would really work out pretty well. So I think, yeah, going the music route and heavy into the music route, because the visual obviously is getting updated and is going to look way better, but it's not that's not going to be like the big pull of it. So because it's, as you said right there, make the bells and whistles really shine through with the audio, and then combining that audio into the combat system. We got a winner, an absolute winner of a remake.
Sounds great. I'm down for it. Oh man. We're charging full price for this, full physical version, everything.
For all these remakes, I would pay full price for it.
All right. Sounds good. All right. You're on like the next 3 games, man. I've never played any of those, so
Oh, jeez. The next one, Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. And yes, there's been plenty of Fire Emblem games that have yet to make it here to the States. But apparently, when we looked up Fire Emblem games, and we've even talked about this one in the past,
yeah.
this one's like hailed as the best Fire Emblem game, aside from Three Houses.
Yeah.
So I've never played this one. This one gets a lot of praise for doing a lot of things differently, but also starting a lot of the things that the Fire Emblem series has now become known for doing, like the relationship that you can have with characters and that bonding that you do. That is a Fire Emblem genealogy thing that occurred. Also, the story apparently is one of the most fundamental. So these are the definite keepers that we want. The battle maps are also significantly larger than expected and more nuanced, and they're multi-staged. So they, how in Fire Emblem Three Houses we kind of complained that, like, yeah, the challenge of the maps themselves were kind of samey.
Right.
Well, from what I researched, it seems like Genealogy of the Holy War, the battles that would occur are, as I said, multi-stage, and they were more nuanced and less trivial than the battle system that we saw. Now, this was also apparently a drawback to the game, is that each battle map was so big and so massive, and if mistakes were made, you had to restart earlier. So we would definitely want to incorporate uh, so
Well, this was on the Nintendo, right?
this is on Super Nintendo.
Oh, Super Nintendo. So I mean, yeah, you gotta cut 'em some slack, I guess.
Well, what we can do is we can add in what I think this game would have gameplay wise is pretty much keep everything that was there in the original, spruce it up with the UI, because obviously things are a bit difficult to sort of find. So give all of those UI refinements, extra buttons that are available, and presentation layouts of information. Make that way more accessible, but also incorporate the what's that wheel that you can turn back. Oh, what was it called? When you die, you can actually like stop and be
All
like,
right.
"Oh, let's reset back a few turns. I
Okay.
need to redo this."
Yeah, I don't
The
remember
reset
what
the
it's.
clock thing, go back in time thing. I forgot what that was called, but
Okay.
definitely bring that in, because that is absolutely needed in here. And what I would love for the Fire Emblem series to do is to not penalize you. I know this is kind of against Fire Emblem, but if there was a way to incorporate an element where you had to play the game and everyone had to survive, if that wasn't like such an important thing, I would love for them to just, if a character dies, not a big deal. Here's another character that you can get.
Right. Okay.
I'll only get them when in the event that someone dies, right? Something like that, maybe. That's not a necessity. I would say a necessity is being able to turn back time. And for these bigger missions, I'm totally fine with them if it means that we're getting more interesting battles and missions. But they need to do like multi save steps of saving and stuff like that.
Right. What I'd like to see in these battle maps, especially like again in Fire Emblem Three Houses, like the bigger battles that you thought were bigger, like your boss battles, I guess. Like I wanted to see like the battle area like change with things happening around you, like the environment to change, physically change, and it drastically changes your thought process, almost like a second stage in a boss battle. Do you know what I mean? Like for example, in Dark Souls, when that enemy is about halfway done or whatever, that enemy does something totally different. Like and that's what I felt like Fire Emblem really needed, and I would have to incorporate that into this as well.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm totally with it. What they could do is, or what they need to do is, and an easy thing to do, add weather.
yeah, and right, it doesn't have to like overhaul the entire environment, but adding weather will could change things. Like for example, now would you want randomized weather or
Uh, I'm perfectly fine with them making different elements of weather. So as you're playing through the campaign,
okay,
first you encounter each sort of weather effect as its own, as part of like the tutorial as things progress, and then the weather situations will be tailored towards each of the missions, whatever it is that you're doing, and it'll escalate from there.
sure,
So maybe when you're getting to like end game, it's like massive like hurricane, thunder, lightning, things really ramp up and make it super epic on scale. And they can incorporate it like, think about it in terms of Breath of the Wild, right? There's a thunderstorm. Now all of a sudden your armored knights are a vulnerability, and if you have mages that can cast thunder spells, right?
uh huh,
Now they're going to be extra effective at casting their thunder damaging spells. And fire, right? Fire during a downpour, right? Fire spells won't do as much damage, right? So now the mages themselves would have to worry a bit more. Or if there's like lots of wind happening, high wind, then arrows won't be. They'll have a higher chance of inaccuracy,
right.
right? There's a lot of stuff that you can do with that.
And I'd even say that should be randomized, unless for somehow, some way you have a skill or someone in your, higher ranks has a skill to be a weatherman or woman, whatever, a meteorologist, let's call them that. Something like that, so you can kind of prepare ahead of time, prepare your battle.
Or maybe even there's some sort of mechanic to change the weather midway through a battle,
Okay,
where you can manipulate it.
yeah, that's a whole new
Yeah,
class, or yeah, could be a
whole
whole
new
new class.
class, or yeah,
So yeah, I think some alteration of the battle mechanics, whether it's environment or like truly environment, like the way you actually get to an enemy, or the environment, like you said, weather patterns, things like that. So yeah, I just wanted some changes there. Now are we really modernizing this to
yes.
Fire Emblem standards?
No, beyond that, the
Be-
Fire Emblem Three Houses, it certainly looks fine and adequate, but I want it way better. You know what I think they should go? They should go 90s anime, early 90s anime style, like but mature. I would say Berserk, the anime Berserk. Have you ever seen that?
I know you tell me to keep watching it.
The 90s anime Berserk, if they, I would say do that as and just have all the characters continue to be, you know, sprites, 2D sprites, but high resolution, nice looking anime sprites.
Okay,
That's what I would
that's it.
totally dig if they did that. That'd be wild.
All right, let's get it made. Let's do
I
this.
mean,
Now,
what would you
music.
want?
What are we doing with music?
Oh, we gotta revamp it. Orchestrated, definitely orchestrated.
Orchestrated. Yeah, I think that would.
Orchestrated battle music with the drums, the horns, the brass. Absolutely.
I think that makes sense. Makes total sense. Are we missing anything else on this one?
I think we got Fire Emblem wrapped up in a pretty bow. I think we're good.
So, all right, cool. All right. Well, this is your wheelhouse right here. These games, these tactical games.
This is I'm actually going to remove
What?
this one.
What?
Just gonna remove it, and I'm gonna move it. I'll make a mention of it and say it's an honorable mention.
All right. So just mention it now then.
All right. So what I am. Oh, what happened to it? It went away. So what I just removed was Ogre Battle 64 as a remake candidate because Nintendo did publish the game. However, I am removing it uh, mainly because now that I'm playing it again on the Wii U, you know, graphically, music wise, I mean, yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff that can be improved, but it still holds up as an overall experience. But there is another Ogre Saga game that I think could deserve its own remake instead of flooding this list with a bunch of Saga titles. I decided to, pull Ogre Battle 64 from the ranks and instead give it up for Tactics Ogre, the Knight of Lotus.
You really
Now,
want to remake this one?
yes, this one is it released on the Game Boy Advance,
Yep.
and this released after Ogre Battle 64, after the first Tactics Ogre, but before the remake of Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together on the PSP. So this was the last Tactics Ogre game to release. This one, storyline wise, it isn't one of the sanctioned episodes of when you think of the Ogre Battle franchise and the Ogre Battle saga. It takes place at think of it like Star Wars, and each game is an episode. But there's also offshoots, and the Knight of Lotus is one of those offshoot stories. It's not a bona fide episode in this overall saga that happens within this world. But the offshoot that it is with core important characters. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and these characters, actually, what they do leads up to this is the essentially the prequel to Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. So this is the prequel to episode 7. So this takes place sometime either during or just after episode 6, which is Ogre Battle 64. So this is like either during the same time as Ogre Battle 64 or just after the events of Ogre Battle 64. That's where the Knight of Lotus events take place. And I would love for them to uh, essentially do exactly what they did with the remake for Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, and to give it that same level of treatment in the Knight of Lotus. There's a couple of things I would like to see them improve. They did sort of add some 3D-ish elements to Let Us Cling Together remake,
Yep.
but they didn't go full blown. You couldn't rotate the camera fully. So I would love for them to just make all the assets of the terrain fully 3D, so that way you could fully rotate the camera all the way around and get that full 360 rotation. And by doing that, you're going to end up having some of the level design in where some of these battles take place. That's going to need to be refined. And I would love for them to also include more make verticality, height, a bigger factor, like it is. It's a factor in Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, but it's more so a factor in Final Fantasy Tactics.
Right.
So I would love for them to incorporate that in this one as well. And then after that, it's really just doing all the other major treatments and extra bells and whistles that they added to the Let Us Cling Together remake to also put it there for the Knight of Lotus. Uh, from what I remember with the story, which is not much because I play that game like 20 years ago, a very long time ago,
You
and
don't remember?
I barely remember that story. It's been right around 20 years, maybe like a year less or something like that. It's been a long time since I played and beat that game, and I can't really remember the story. But if there was issues of like localization not being quite there, then they need to definitely enhance that. Also, just really animate out the scenes with the sprites. Use the sprites, have them animate out exactly what they're doing, just like how they did in Tactics Ogre. And if they could, the first Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together, if they
Yep.
could also do the branching story path system and sort of expand that out. Now that's probably taken things a bit more. Now they do have multiple endings to the Knight of Lotus, if I can remember. I think they do. I just don't think they definitely didn't have the branching path story thing, the way, especially the way that it's presented in Let Us Cling Together. So if they could incorporate that, it would that's a big ask, but if they could, that'd be great as well.
So it sounds like you just want to bring the Knight of Lotus to Let Us Cling Together's standards, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
and to raise it up graphically, to add that 3D, more 3D elements to the environment, more so with what they did in Final Fantasy Tactics, because how
Okay.
that sort of pop up book, that 3D diorama nature of Final Fantasy Tactics was awesome,
Yeah.
and I would love for them to bring that fully into the Tactics Ogre franchise.
Okay. Assuming fully orchestrated here.
Absolutely fully orchestrated. I mean, the music in Let Us Cling Together is phenomenal. I mentioned before about weather effects. They had weather effects in the Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, so they just need to bring that in there as well. Incorporate those weather effects. Make sure they stay in there. Get those thunderstorms. Change the music. Make it way more epic and uh, and insane. And yeah,
Okay.
I'll be.
So we're keeping the obviously we're gonna maybe upres the pixel art. We're keeping it pixel art though.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Actually, this could be similar to a Octopath Traveler type of
Okay.
graphical, because
Yeah.
that could easily work with this tactics style combat system,
Yeah.
that visual style. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of looking at other games that kind of do the same or similar things to um what Knight of the Lotus does. I'm looking at Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, which is again another kind of tactics type of style. I like what they do in their presentation. It's almost watercolor esque, I guess maybe. I don't know. And then also Banner of the Maid is another one, but their art style is a little different. Not, I guess you can call them chibi, maybe. But yeah, they have a totally different art style. But I agree though that the HD 2D would probably be a better representation of uh what these ogre games are like. So I'd have to agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. I don't, I really don't want these two games redone. Just saying. Actually, I
We
do want this
we
last
can
game
move
done,
them
but
down into the honorable mention list.
no, 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 no. Let's discuss. Let's
All right.
discuss.
So the next one coming up, this game is beloved by a lot of people, but this lot of people is also a small list of people because not too many people have actually heard of this game. But those that have and have played it
Mm,
absolutely love this game. This game is just it's just doing stuff that wasn't shouldn't have been done during the Super Nintendo. The game is called Terra Nigma. The game has just it's just a very action adventure intensive RPG
mm-hmm.
where all the elements of sun it's doing platforming elements in an RPG. It's doing action combat in an RPG, and it's doing it better than other bona fide action RPGs. It is a quite an excellent execution throughout, and they kind of like they almost bit off more than they can chew when they made this game, but they actually landed it in almost all the fronts. It is a fantastic game. What it needs in a remake is just a massive. I think if there is a candidate to go full blown 3D, this is the one.
How about this? Just to change everything, right? Like first and foremost, how about we release it in North America? let's let's start with that.
Well,
And that's a reason why a lot of people like had never heard of this game, right? Because it was never released in North America.
we can even put the original game in the remade game.
Yep, a mini game.
Yep, it'll be a game within the game.
Bingo. Yeah, I think this would be the candidate for our first 3D, right?
Yeah, yeah, and by 3D, I'm thinking probably like God of War style, behind the shoulder,
They're
almost.
so a PlayStation exclusive. What the heck?
Just closer in camera system.
Gotcha.
Uh, there might be some other. Let me think. Maybe what's some other excellent third person action combat
Are
systems?
you
Because
seriously gonna make me name like a bunch of
I'm, I'm just
Sony
thinking of some like.
exclusives?
Well, I'm thinking of some very notable ones. Like Astral Chain definitely comes up to mind.
Well, Gears of War, not yeah, Gears of War kind of does that over the shoulder, really kind of close up.
Right, but instead of being close up like God of War, I'm trying to think of other third person ones, not as close up. So I'm thinking like Astral Chain, right? That one's more pulled back, and also Bayonetta can at times be more pulled back, but Bayonetta is a little bit more set piece. There are set pieces as you're going through the levels, and the levels are very linear. So that's why I'm hesitant to say Bayonetta style action combat system. But let's see. I mean, this you wanna have the exploration. God of War has the exploration,
Can Platinum
and
Games just take over this game?
they could. I mean, if they did the Astral Chain ish
Yeah.
kind of camera system, and I'm not saying the same combat system, but I'm saying it's definitely an action combat system. I mean, this character is jumping around like crazy, doing like dive spear thrusts and jump thrusts and like weird energy shield things. There's a lot of stuff going on that this character can do. Exploring the world, opening up chests. These are things that you kind of do in Astral Chain to a certain degree. It
Hmm.
didn't. And Astral Chain also did platforming, but it didn't do it in the traditional sense. So Astral Chain, you had your linked thing, and you told that to go to another platform, and then you hit the button combination that does the chain jump, where now your character gets pulled by the chain of the ink by the other end, the chimera, and they pull you in. So I can kind of see like that being a nice sort of uh, combo of how I kind of see this working itself out. There's a lot of climbing in this game. There's you're crawling, you're smashing through walls. There's a lot of just stuff happening, and it's very fast paced. So,
Yeah.
in Astro Chain, also a very fast paced combat system as well.
Yeah. I think just having the way kind of like we're talking our way through this, right? So having the way Platinum does some of their stuff, I think would really work well. I like their a lot of what they do in the terms of their combat as well. Um, I'm talking Platinum. So yeah, this game is just incredibly bonkers. I so wish that this was released here because it probably would have done really well. But yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, just up redo everything really from the ground up. 3D shit.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, if I had to sum this up to people, it's if you were to take Astral Chain and Secret of Mana,
I was just
and
about to say that.
smash the two together,
Yeah,
and just smash those two things together, you would kind of get what we want this to be Terranigma to be remade as.
I agree. Doesn't like this was made by Enix, right? So doesn't Square Enix have something similar to what Astral Chain is?
Um, I don't, I don't think so. I guess I don't know. Probably the closest would be like Final Fantasy VII
Yeah.
remake.
Yeah, I don't want Final Fantasy 7 though.
Yeah, and you know what? They could actually pull off this game, kind of like Final Fantasy VII remake, because Final Fantasy VII remake is way more actiony. But I mean, obviously, this game has no menus. You're not popping up menus left and right.
Right.
Uh, so
Yeah, I definitely don't want it like Trials of Mana. Like they were kind of a very different art style. I definitely want it
yeah,
like
I
we've been
think
talking about.
I think the art style of Astral Chain will work super well, except obviously not cyberpunk, right?
Yeah.
So less neon lights and stuff like that going on.
Wow. This is a game I really want now.
Yeah, that's so good, so good. All right,
I I'm just looking at their list. Go ahead, you can continue. I'm just looking at their list of games to see if there's anything that's popping
all
out
right.
here.
Now a lot of people kind of like how people would expect Final Fantasy VI, and we mentioned it first, right? A lot of people, I think, would expect this RPG to be remade. A lot of people have asked for a sequel, and we never got one. We never got a true sequel, and that is Super Mario RPG. What was that? Legend of the Seven Stars or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
What a fantastic RPG. It's the art style that it did before was what was it? It's that same thing that Rare did with their Donkey Kong Country
Right.
games, and they did what it was like. They created the characters they modeled them in 3D, pre-rendered them in 3D, and then took snapshots of them and turned those 3D models into sprites. And they did that for everything. They did it for the environment, they did it for the characters themselves, and did all of those animations and had them all play out. So it looked at the time fantastic because this was a level of visual fidelity that was above what traditional sprites were capable of. So it looked real good. And then it had this awesome combat system where it uniquely required. I think this might have been one of the first games to do this type of mechanic in combat, in turn-based combat, which was that action button press,
Yeah.
where you had to hit a button at the time that your attack lands, or hit a button at the time that the enemy attack would land on you in order to gain some sort of offensive or defensive benefit. So it wasn't hands off. You had to be involved, and there was a timing to it, and that added a level of skill to the combat system that wasn't typically there. Where in other RPGs, you just execute the command and that's it. You know, there wasn't really much skill involved, but now you had to actually time your button presses with your attack to get that extra bonus in, or that extra defensive protection in. And if you failed to do that, well, then you're going to take extra damage or you're going to deal less damage. So there was this skill involved with that. So those things, definitely want them to keep those things, and probably even take it even further by adding more complexity to the nature of the button presses and the timings, which they have done in newer uh, Mario RPG style games like Mario and Luigi Superstar
Superstars.
Saga,
Yep.
or Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. So to just take those elements that they did with the timing action button sequences, but bake it into a bona fide Super Mario RPG remake. Uh, Visually, I think they should stick with the the art style that they're going with. I don't know. It kind of looked like almost like claymation, almost
Right.
like claymation and puppetry. If I had to like sum it up, it was
So you would keep
like
that?
I want to keep that, but make it really high res, really high fidelity, to the point where now things look like they are actually where you can actually see the material and it actually looks like it's made of clay or wooden puppets or whatever.
So you'd stick with the aesthetic of a malleable object, like instead of paper, we're dealing with clay or something to that
Yep,
effect.
yep. An actual 3D object, 3D modeled object, but the material it's made out of will have that sort of look. It was it was almost like the Super Mario RPG. The characters in there were almost like play toys.
Yeah.
Yeah. So something like that, and even some of the levels and environments almost had like a diorama uh, uh, feel to the levels and the layout, because there was also some platforming elements to it where you did actually have to there was a jump button. You did have to actually, there was some instances of jump based puzzles and platforming puzzles. There was hidden blocks throughout the world that you could hit that would give you extra goodies, and what was it? One of the things that they didn't have in Super Mario RPG was the camera angle was static.
Yeah.
I think with this remake, you allow that camera, even if it's sort of always going to give you that isometric view. I think you allow it to rotate and allow just given the ability to rotate around. That will sort of alleviate a lot of the platforming issues that were with the original, but also you could up the ante on some of the platforming challenges and sort of bake it right into there, almost like Mario 3D World.
I was thinking, I'm on the same wavelength as you. Think of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker.
Yes, yes.
But like obviously those worlds are really tight for whatever for its puzzle features, I guess. Just trying to get you to do that. So it obviously expanded it a little bit, let it breathe a little bit, but just having that same rotatability, that sort of stuff. But that same look, I think, is kind of what you're going for, maybe.
Yeah,
There you go.
that would work. Captain Toad, that would definitely work for the art style.
Yeah, I
So
just
let's
want to
see.
get better gameplay here.
I mean, the music is really good, but we gotta update it. We gotta
Y- Yep.
give it real instruments and not MIDI chiptune type things. But the songs that are in there are really good. We just update it with uh, proper instrumentation. Elements to overhaul. I don't know. I mean, there's
To
other than,
overhaul. Ugh.
I mean, we're adding in a bunch of stuff with just by giving it this 3D engine and environment to work with, and change allowing the changing of the camera angles, because some of the platforming was difficult to deal with because the camera, you couldn't adjust the camera at all. So we would solve those problems by adding in that type of stuff.
I'm gonna add a whole new element to this.
What's that?
Captain Toad also has VR, with that VR kit, and I'm watching some gameplay on it, and I think it would actually be really cool to have a VR. I mean, it's not true VR, right? You're still looking at Toad. You're not actually Toad, but you're in. Well, it does have first person, but you're like really in on this action. Now I know Captain Toad, you can't jump or anything like that, but you're like so close and you can see everything. I don't know. You might wanna add that to the repertoire.
Yeah, that would be wild if you do that with the VR functionality. Can You would have to change how the battles, the combat would present itself, but it would look so awesome if you were to now see the battles happening right in front of you in VR,
Hmm.
uh, and you're just watching it all happen in front of you. That would be wild. That would be really cool. So
Well, yeah,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely change the the way the combat is laid out. Uh, Instead of having that isometric backed off view, you have this sort of move the camera around, immersive take on it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd just be very different. Like I would like to have an option, right? Either or. No, like I don't want to be I don't want to be forced into the VR thing. You know what I mean? I'd like to have it the traditional method.
Just offer as in addition,
Yeah.
you can VR the battles that take place.
Let's make this happen.
One thing that I would say is a non-keeper or something that they could overhaul, even though they're not, is the storyline. It's not really much of a story. I mean, there is a story, but it's not a serious story at all.
And then we can't call. See, it's hard to change like a story. You know
I
that
know.
that's like the whole aspect of the game, right? That's the whole point of the game. So when you start changing that, it becomes something else.
Well, what I'm saying is, I know they're not going to, but if they did want to change the story, I wouldn't complain. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. That's good to know. That's good to
All right, we're at the last game on the list of games that we would love to have a remake,
know. Uh-huh.
and this last game is a doozy because it barely made it here to the states, and it made it here to the states like almost a decade after the game originally released. And
Mm-hmm.
this is Tales of Fantasia. This was the very first Tales of game in the entire franchise, and it was a Super Nintendo game. And it never released as a Super Nintendo game here in the States. Uh, and it only came here in the States on the Game Boy Advance, I believe.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's where it sort of came in. And this game, it started a lot. It started an entire franchise, right? It started the entire franchise of Tales, and it did things that no other game was doing. There were some games that sort of borrowed, maybe had a couple of elements here and there, but no, this is the first one that like really did a different take, a dramatically different take on JRPGs. What it did is not only was the combat action, which other games have done, an action combat system, but when you so in a JRPG, right, you're running around, you get into a random battle, and you're teleported to a battle map. Tails did that. It still has that. But instead of being a menu driven one, the battle map is a side scroll, almost like a fighting game, 2D plane.
Right.
And it's action based, and your button inputs are almost kind of like button inputs that you do for a fighting game, kind of like Smash, where you could, if you wanted to do like an upwards attack or leaping attack, you would hit up and then hit the attack button. If you wanted to stab something on the ground, you'd hold down and hit the attack button. There were arts and spells that you could use, and these would change based on the nature of the thing. If it was a spell, there'd be a little bit of spell casting, and you could target different enemies that were further behind others. You could do different types of abilities that would take your sword. You sort of swing your sword and do like a demon fang or beast fang. I forgot which version they called it at that time. And it would send like this shockwave of the blade, so you could get some projectile attacks. You could get archers shooting their arrows and over across distances. You had your spellcasters, and you had your melee people. So you just take them and you would combat one another, and everyone is sort of engaging in combat at the same time at a fairly high, fast pace, and you could hit a button. So you're controlling one character at a time, but you could hit a button to then pause the action and queue up commands of your other party members for them to execute while you're in the middle of stuff. And when you're not queuing up commands on them, AI would continue to control them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just to describe it from the get go. So think traditional JRPG, but with that very unique and different take on combat, and that's essentially Tales of Fantasia.
Right. Yeah, I really dig what they did with the combat. I actually like the side profile, side scrolling combat arena. I think that's really, really cool, really, really interesting. Especially to be for that to be the first one to do it is that must have taken a lot of people by surprise
Yeah.
to do something like that.
And I would love for them to. So they have already upgraded Tales games into a fully 3D run around environment combat system. So instead of remaking Tales of Fantasia with the newer elements that they've incorporated, I would say just firmly plant in place and go full tilt on this side scroll uh, combat system that they did, this 2D linear action combat system, whatever it is that they called it, and just really hammer that in and make it even faster and more responsive to the player,
Okay.
and really up the animation quality of the sprites and the animations of their attacks and things that are happening so that it feels even more action oriented. And maybe if people feel that that's not enough, maybe we can do the thing that I mentioned for Zelda, where there's that another plane, like
Mm-hmm.
a background lane that characters could go on or sort of move in between. That could add another major dynamic, because one of the issues with the combat in this game is characters. If your melee character got behind some characters, or your melee characters trying to reach characters that were in the back end of where the enemies were, it could sometimes be difficult to reach them.
All
So
right.
maybe to add this other layer of traversal, you could hop into the background or hop into the foreground and subvert an enemy, get around them essentially, and
Yeah.
then hop back in order to attack enemies from in front of them or behind. So being able to sort of handle things like that would be potentially pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm really digging this. I like their pixel art too. It's done really well.
Yeah. It's real good. They need to like go full bore on voice acting. They got to do it.
Okay.
Definitely up the audio, up the voice acting, and the artwork. I think it needs to go kind of what I said before with Fire Emblem potentially, and going like high resolution anime style sprites,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
hand drawn anime, high resolution, so it looks like you're playing an anime.
That could work. That could work. Definitely work. How about the overworld? How would that not just the world traversal, but like everything else? Are we keeping that in that same style as well? Or are we keeping pixel art?
Um, you know what? They could do like a Dragon Quest 11, where you could do this 3D overworld traversal, or you could hit the flip of a button and all of a sudden you get the original game graphics and you could traverse the overworld that way,
All
right?
right. So like what you said, what Dragon Quest 11 did.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Yeah. The that's the only thing that really is holding this guy back. Is if you look at the overworld, the world traversal, it's just terrible. Absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and a definite thing that should be overhauled is the enemies, the random battles. So get rid of that. Put the enemies in the field. You run into them. That's how you initiate in battle. Do that. Don't do the random battle
I
stuff.
mean, that's
That
essentially what they ended up on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they ended up on. So it's it's not like something that they aren't aware of. So just put that in there, and you know what? Maybe even if people want, maybe make it like toggleable.
Yeah, I'm okay with random battles as long as you can manipulate it, whether you want it heavy on the random battles or light or non-existent. I'm okay with that. I don't even need to see him on the field as long as I can change that. I'm okay with that.
So I mean, visuals we talked about, and audio. Just once again, hammering in that voice acting, fully voice acting everything,
Yeah,
and going like on the extreme end, high emotion side of things.
yeah.
Uh, kind of like what they did with Tales of Destiny. That one had some really good. It wasn't extensive at all. It was mostly in the combat side of things, but the voice acting in the combat of Tales of Destiny was awesome. But I'm talking fully voice act the entire storyline. Definitely go crazy on that.
Can I also say that I would appreciate any of these games being just straight up ported over
Yeah.
the way
Well,
they are.
which one would you want?
If I was to
For,
just choose one,
yep, and choose from the full gamut of the list, right?
oh
The
man.
almost wanted and the what's pick one to port to the Switch. What would it
Okay.
be?
Now all the Final Fantasy 6 nerds are gonna get mad at me, but I'm not going. I'm actually gonna. Can I? I really like what Tales of Fantasia does. Okay, I really do like that.
That's a unique experience. I mean, the story on it is also really good. The game opens up with a fantastic story,
Yeah.
so they don't need to change anything with the story.
Right.
Just voice act it.
So there's that. I like Illusion of Gaia. Secret Evermore is cool. I liked what they did with that.
You can
But
only pick one.
I know. All
Only
right.
pick one.
Terranigma.
Oh, you picked the that
That's what you were gonna pick, right?
was all I was gonna pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because we never got to play it.
Oh man. All right. So you got Terranigma.
No, I think you and I are on the same wavelength here, man. Terranigma is the one.
Well, I'm gonna spread the love. So you picked
Okay.
Terranigma. So you know what? I would want the Fire Emblem genealogy of the Holy War.
Okay.
That's the one I would want to port to the Switch, but with the caveat that it has to be translated, right? It has to be localized.
Yeah. Oh man. These are great. This is great. I'm excited for these games that you're making.
No, Nintendo's making them for us. They
Oh,
they asked us because they knew that we had good taste.
I'm gonna write a letter. I'm gonna write a letter to them. All right, cool. So, what do you guys think of the list? Anything you would change? Anything you would add? What would you add? Would you add a different game to the list? I
They
don't know.
probably would.
They probably would. Of course, they would. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the Switch RPG podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, if you have any questions or comments, you can send them to podcast@switchrpg.com. You can listen to this show each and every week at switchrpg.com or on your favorite podcast app. If you listen on that, please give us a rating and review. We want to climb up those charts on the platforms, so your support would be amazing. And finally, head over to switchrpg.com for all your RPG needs on the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, see you later.